quoted by everyone, including Honorable Prime Minister, as the lead state in marketing reforms, and all other states are now following the Karnataka model and making their markets online. What happens in this is that all the produce which the farmers bring after toiling hard in their fields is uploaded on the web-based electronic portal where buyers from all over the country on a single trader license can participate and submit their quotes in the e-tendering process. The quality parameters are displayed through scientific markets online. This leads to increased competition and a transparent process which has made our markets very robust, transparent and efficient. The farmers are getting much higher prices for the produce without the consumers having to pay any more than what they were paying earlier. And over a period of time, with the reduction in the number of intermediaries, we hope that the price that the consumer has to pay will also come down significantly. As on date, more than 103 of our 155 markets are on the unified market platform. With a view to integrate various food processing and agribusiness sectors, the state has brought out the new agri-business and food processing policy with very attractive incentives such as investment promotion subsidy. Honorable Agriculture Minister is here. I warmly welcome him on behalf of all of you. Please come. Mr. Krishna Bairegowda. Yes. So there are lots of incentives available in the policy about which our Development Commissioner will tell you a lot more. But I'm sure it's not the incentives which are the primary reason for the investors to come and decide to invest here. It's the ease of doing business here. It's the ready-to-use infrastructure. It's the availability of skilled manpower and unparalleled quality of living as well as work conditions which will draw you to our state beautiful. It's my proud privilege to invite all the distinguished guests, speakers and participants in this business session. At the outset, I am delighted to welcome Honorable Minister for Agriculture, Mr. Krishna Bairegowda, who is a very young and dynamic minister. At the age of 30, he became the member of the Vidhan Sabha. He has done Masters in International Relations from the US, and he is now holding the charge of Agriculture portfolio. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Our other ministers are probably on their way since the inaugural session got delayed. But it's also my proud privilege to welcome Mr. Gokul Patnaik, who's a retired IAS officer from Punjab cadre. After serving in various capacities, including the head of the EPIDA and president of the All India Food Processors Association, we are indeed delighted to have you, sir. A very warm welcome to you. My own senior colleague from Karnataka State, Mr. Sanjay Kaul, who also served in the IAS for more than 28 years in various sectors such as health, food and commodity markets, education, health, and he's now the MD and CEO of National Collateral Management Services. I warmly welcome Mr. Sanjay Kaul for this seminar. We also have Mr. Hari Menon, the CEO of BigBasket.com. He's going to speak on opportunities in food retail, a serial entrepreneur, founder of startups, and now the CEO of Big Basket. A very warm welcome to Mr. Hari Menon. We have Mr. Siraj Chowdhury, the chairman of Cargill India Private Limited with us. He has worked with ITC Limited, STC. He's been actively involved in several NGOs like IFBN and chairman of Delhi chapter of United Way. His tenure with Cargill spans for more than 19 years. A very warm welcome on behalf of all of you and on my own personal behalf to Mr. Chowdhury. We have Mr. Rakesh Singh, the managing director of the KMF. He served in various capacities. He was secretary to the Honorable Chief Minister. He served as joint secretary in Ministry of Home Affairs. And he now heads our very large and prestigious He's been actively involved Federation. A very warm welcome to Mr. Singh. We have Mr. Amol Pavanathan, the Deputy Managing Director of NABARD. He has been serving with NABARD since 1984, has great experience in banking, financial management. He headed the Kerala Regional Office and the BIRD in Lucknow. Very warm welcome to Mr. Pavanathan. Mr. VL Rajesh, the CEO of ITC Foods. Mr. Rajesh has served in various capacities at ITC, like the Divisional Chief Executive, the Chief Operating Officer, and he is now the CEO of ITC Foods. A very warm welcome to our very beloved Development Commissioner, Mrs. Lata Krishna Rao, who's going to be giving the keynote address and giving you the highlights of Karnataka's agribusiness and food processing sector. A very warm and hearty welcome to ma'am. So all the Director General of ICRISAT is here with us today. A very warm welcome to the Director General of ICRISAT. Please. And a very warm welcome to all my colleagues, the distinguished delegates who have come in large numbers for this session. You've all chosen to be a part of our event because of our mutual passion to position the state of Karnataka on a sustained growth path in the field of agriculture and allied sectors. Your passions help us to come together, and the energy we create allows us to achieve the goal. So once again, a very warm welcome to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
So with that welcome note, we will start our session with the first presentation. The first presentation will be on the overview of the agri-business and food processing policy 2015. And the presentation will be done by our Additional Chief Secretary and Development Commissioner, Srimati Lata Krishna Rao. I should tell this gathering that she is the Chief Architect of this policy, and from her presentation you will be knowing what are the salient features of this policy. Thank you, Madam.
Good afternoon to all of you. I hope most of you were there in the morning's inaugural session. What I would present before you are the brief features of our new agri-business policy, which we have launched only in December 2015. We have tried to make this policy as integrative as possible after extensive discussions with the industry to ensure that we are able to incorporate the requirements of the industry as far as agri-business and logistics is concerned. The policy on agri-business and food processing includes, apart from what we normally consider under food processing, it covers warehousing, cold storage, logistics, exports, processing and handling of the related produce, including marine produce, meat and poultry. It also includes necessary incentives for research for varietal development. It includes biotechnology and bioinformatics, food testing laboratories, tissue culture laboratories, seed processing units, then food grade packaging units, then horticulture hubs, food parks, seafood parks, spices parks. So this policy has tried to encompass the different types of business activities which would all fall under this particular policy. How has Karnataka fared in terms of agri-exports? Normally in Karnataka we hear a lot of talk about IT exports, and we are very well known for that. But if you look at these figures, Karnataka's growth in agri-exports in the past 5 years, CAGR has been at 22%, whereas the national average has been at 16%. So therefore, there is a tremendous potential. The, the ecosystem is extremely well developed for the exports of agri-produce and related products. So our exports have clocked at 22, while the national average has been at 16%. Given the fact that we have 10 varied agroclimatic zones in the state, this provides the opportunity for having different types of agricultural and horticultural produce. And in terms of these produce, the numbers that you see here, these are all India figures, where Karnataka is number one in terms of these produce. If you look at sunflower, then coffee, then the Bangalore rose onion, then gherkins, then colored capsicum, and of course chilies and tamarind. So these are the produce where Karnataka is number one at the all India level. And at number two we have maize, we have tur, we have jawar, we have tomato, grapes, pomegranate. And grapes, it is not just a table grape. These are grapes even for the winery. So it encompasses all those varieties of grapes, pomegranates, then pepper, cut flowers, and of course cucumber and cloves. So the list goes on and on, where up till the top 5, we have the complete gamut of both agriculture and horticulture produce, spices, flowers, where Karnataka's produce ranks at top number 5 in most parts of the country. This is just a pictorial depiction of this. So what have we done in the policy to enable enterprise to develop and grow? The first thing is we've made the entire state into one zone. Those of you who are familiar with the industrial policy would know that the state has been divided into different zones. So therefore, an entrepreneur or a businessman setting up a unit in the backward North Karnataka districts would be entitled to a greater level of incentive, whereas somebody setting it up, say in Bangalore or Mysore, would get a lesser level of incentive. But in the case of agri-business and in the case of food processing, logistics, we have made the state into one zone. So any entrepreneur, whether they set up the unit in Gulbarga or whether it is Ramnagaram or whether it is Belgaum, you get the same level of incentives. So to encourage agri-business, to encourage logistics and warehousing, especially for agri-produce, the entire state has been made into one zone. And we have also rationalized the incentives that were there in the earlier policies of the state and also in the industrial policy, so that we've given them the higher level of the incentives across the state. And promoter classification has also been far more simplified than it was earlier. We have, apart from the MSME category, which all of you are very well aware of, we've also categorized into category A, B and C the industries. The investment between 10 crore up to 75 crore, we've categorized it as A category. 75 to 150 crore is a B category industry. Above 150 crore is a C category industry. Now when we look at certain of the incentives, irrespective of this investment category, the incentives are now applicable to the industry under the new policy. Investment promotion subsidy, in the industrial policy it varies from 15 to 35%. We've taken the upper limit of 35%. So 35% is given now as investor promotion subsidy for the MSMEs up to an investment of 65 lakhs. Then there is 100% exemption from stamp duty, irrespective of the level of your investment and irrespective of where the investment is. Whether it is in Bangalore or Gulbarga or Mysore, you get the 100% exemption of stamp duty under the new policy. We also give you subsidy for setting up of effluent treatment plants. Food processing as an activity or setting up of abattoirs require use of fairly large quantities of water. So therefore, subsidies for setting up of the effluent treatment plant is also now provided in the new policy. We are also giving you some other concessional registration charges and 100% reimbursement of land conversion fee. In Karnataka, to convert into industry, you'll have to pay some land conversion fee. Therefore, irrespective again of where the unit is set up and the level of investment, We will reimburse you 100% of the land conversion fee. We also will give you 5% per annum interest subsidy on term loans for the micro enterprises. The other major incentive which has been a long pending demand of the industry is 100% exemption from tax on electricity tariff and also a reimbursement of the VAT. The earlier policies did not carry this. The industrial policy also did not favor the requirement of the industry. But in the agri-business policy, we are now providing for a reimbursement of the VAT for agri-business, warehouses and logistics as related to the food sector. We are also giving you encouraging technology adaptation, and therefore there also we are supporting you with some fiscal incentives. It's about a maximum of rupees 1 lakh. So these are the incentives across the board which we have provided in the policy. Another sector where Karnataka has been in the forefront is organic agriculture. Karnataka was the first state to come out with a policy on organic agriculture. Most of you would be aware that the Prime Minister about a fortnight ago had declared Sikkim as a fully organic state. Sikkim, being a much larger state, has been able to achieve it, but we are now in the process of trying to encourage a greater extent of organic farming, and this organic policy that we have is moving towards this. These are the various features of the policy and what we have done at the ground level. The biggest problem that producers face today is marketing, the branding, the packaging, the grading. So the policy provides for it, and now we are trying to federate groups of organic farmers into so that they would be able to assist themselves in marketing of their produce. Mr. Mahendra Jain very briefly spoke to you about the agriculture market reforms which the state had undertaken. Karnataka is a pioneer. In 2013 of November, we introduced the necessary legislative reforms. Therefore, earlier, for 155 markets in the state, every trader would have to go to every market to obtain a license. Today in the state, we have a single license for the entire state. A trader can now apply online and obtain a license and that license he would be eligible to participate and trade in any of the markets in the state. Not only this, our reforms also provide for traders who are outside of the state to also take a license and participate in the trade activity of the state. Linked with the agriculture market reforms is the encouragement that we give for licensing for the private markets to participate in agriculture trade. We also permit private players to set up cold storages within the premises of the market yards. What is it that we are now looking to for entrepreneurs? How is it we would encourage you to participate in agriculture business in the state? We have been putting up on the website and the projects are available. The Karnataka Milk Federation has identified 6 projects. The land is already available. These projects are on a PPP mode. The warehousing corporation, the state warehousing corporation, is also offering their warehouses for operation and management on a PPP mode. They are also providing their rooftops for the generation of solar power, for construction of rooftop panels and for the generation of solar power. That's again on a revenue sharing on a PPP mode. We are setting up seafood parks, maize technology park, rice technology park, and all these cases the land is already available with us, and we are looking at private entrepreneurship to help develop the park, set up the common facilities. We also have existing food parks in the state where land is available. In addition to this, we are open to setting up more food parks in the state, either for multi-commodity produce or single commodity produce. Karnataka also has the International Flower Auction Board, which is the only one in the country where we are marketing cut flowers. as per the Dutch auction mode. At the end of the session, I would encourage you to please visit the exhibition, see the Karnataka Pavilion, where most of what I have said, you have the display and you will have the greater details. We've also given you a copy of our the new agri-business policy. I would urge you to read it, and if you have any clarifications on the policy, we are open to sorting this out towards the end of the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam, for that excellent presentation, which provided an overview of the agribusiness and food processing policy. Madam also highlighted about the opportunities that are available under public-private partnership, as well as the market reforms that have been underway in Karnataka. So with that, thanks. We have in our midst the Honorable Minister for Horticulture and Agriculture Marketing, Honorable Shri Shamanur Shivshankarappa. On behalf of the organizers and all of us present here, I welcome you, sir. So we'll move on to the next presentation. The next presentation is by Shri Gokul Patnaik, sir. Just a few words about brief profile of Shri Gokul Patnaik. Is the chairman of Global Agri-Systems Private Limited, which is India's premier agri-services organization based in New Delhi. He is also the vice chairman of Katra Group. Prior to this, Mr. Patnaik was a member of the Indian Administrative Service and served in senior positions both with the government of Punjab and with the government of India. As chairman of the Agricultural and Processed Food Products Export Development Authority, that is APEDA, from 1991 to 1996, he was the architect of manifold increase in Indian agriculture exports. Mr. Patnaik has been president of the All India Food Processors Association, chairman of the National Council on Agriculture Marketing of CII, and a member of the governing body of ICAR. Mr. Patnaik is a well-known authority on agribusiness, and his views are frequently sought for by the government as well as the private sector. Sir, I welcome you for making this presentation, sir.
Honorable Ministers on the dais, friends, dignitaries, and all the delegates present here. Since there are a number of people here, I'll try to be as brief as possible, though the opportunities for agriculture and horticulture in Karnataka are huge. Can I have the... As you see, Karnataka is a land of opportunities. It contributes is one of the fastest growing states in India. It's at a level of 7% of GSDP, and it contributes the number one state in coffee. About 71% of the coffee is produced here. It's largest biodiversity in this country. As many as 10 agroclimatic zones are here, and it's number one or number two in number of crops, including fruits and crops like maize and grapes. It's also got Karnataka's strengths in agriculture and allied sectors and is keen to realize its full potential. As you see, this gathering in West Karnataka is an attempt by the government who is very, very progressive and wants to take Karnataka to the next level. It has a very progressive industrial policy, 2014 to 19, and very recently, under the chairmanship of Development Commissioner, it has produced one of the most progressive food processing policy. We have compared the food processing policy of most of the states in India, and I can tell you that Karnataka's food processing policy, recently announced is probably the best in the country. Karnataka has also a number of agro export zones, and it has one, I am told now, 2 mega food parks. Yet, on food processing front, I am afraid Karnataka lags behind other states. Just to give you an example, in the neighboring states of Andhra Pradesh, there were as many as 9,359 food processing units. Maharashtra had 3,000 units, and Karnataka has only about 2,000 units. So there is a lot to catch up with, even with your neighboring states. I was asked to talk about the potential sectors, so I have listed out a few. This is not an exhaustive list, and I am sure my friends on the dais will add many more. I feel integrated poultry is a big opportunity, and I'll talk about it in a little later, because this is a place where Karnataka has all the essentials, the raw material available, but it has not performed to its full essentials. Maize processing is another good opportunity. I know that my friend Siraj Hussain and Kargil have recently seized this opportunity and put up very large processing unit. But even with 800 tons a day, which is their capacity, Kargil will be able to use only about 10%, less than 10% of the total maize produced in Karnataka. So don't lose heart. There is still a lot of opportunity where a number of things can be done, particularly in the small and medium sector, because maize is a product which lends itself to various uses. Then integrated dairy units is another unit. I was told by Mr. Ashok Singh that Karnataka does not have many good private sector dairies, and the cooperative sector has about 48% of the market share. I don't know whether it is because the cooperative sector is very efficient or because the private sector is absent. I think they can do with a little bit of competition, and there is a lot of scope for private sector to come in, either directly or in partnership with the cooperative sector. Again, grapes, Karnataka is number 2 in the whole country, and there is a lot of scope for winery. I think the first Indian wine was produced in this state, but it still it has to do a lot of catching up with Maharashtra and other states. Then for the people, many of friends sitting here are looking at small and medium sector and maybe startups, and for them Karnataka has, because of its biodiversity, has a lot of spice units and oleoresin producing units. So spice grinding, oleoresins are something they can look at, and in country, the whole world is now going into more value added products instead of raw products. Therefore these will be quite useful. Then the another very good opportunity is aromatic oil and herbal extractions. Again, Karnataka is very rich in its natural resources. Therefore these are some things which small and medium sector with good technology. The key word here is you should have the best technology in the world, and then the world is a market for you. I mentioned about integrated poultry on the top of my list. This is the reason why. As you know, poultry feed has about 60 to 65% of corn in it, and the conversion ratio is nearly 2 to 1. So 2 kilos of feed get into 1 kilo of poultry meat. So therefore, maize is on his produce on his plants, and then perhaps sometimes it is too late. Then the farmer is saved of the botheration of transportation, various amali taxes at the mandi, because the product is picked up right from the doorstep, and weekly payment is made to the farmers. And most importantly, farmers are trained in a sustainable agriculture which does not degrade the land on which it is cultivated. This is a committed extension team. This is the core of, I should say that the core of all good fruit processing unit is to have a good extension team to control the raw material production, price and quality. This is how you go up the value chain, starting with, as I mentioned, with raw flowers, you do ensilaging, then dehydration, then produce beadlets, then it goes into extraction process, then further into purification, and then finally into the last, the highest price product, which is the lutein and carotenoids. So this is possible. This has been done in Karnataka, and I think this is only an example, but similar cases can be done in many other fields. This is how it started, with a small shed in Telegi village. Now they have put up a large modern plant in on the outskirts of outskirts of Bangalore. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. I know there are a lot of other people who will tell you number of more potential, but please listen to this thing, that at the heart of any agriculture and food processing is the raw material that you get from the farmer. If you control the quality, control the production and price, success is sure. Thank you.
I thank Shri Gokul Patnaik for his presentation on processing opportunities for agriculture and horticulture, and also he spoke about the contract farming experience of his own group at in Marigold at Davangere and other places. Thank you, sir. Before we move on to the next speaker, we have with us Honorable Minister for Animal Husbandry and Sericulture, Shri A. Manju. On behalf of all the delegates present here, I welcome you, sir, for this session. Our next topic is it's on investment opportunities in warehousing and logistics, including cold chain facility. And the speaker is Mr. Sanjay Kaul. I'd like to introduce Mr. Sanjay Kaul. Mr. Sanjay Kaul is the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of National Collateral Management Services Limited. He is a former Indian Administrative Service Officer. Before joining NCML, he was the Director and CEO of the NCDEX Institute of Commodity Markets and Research, New Delhi. And he has worked as the Joint Secretary, Department of Food and Public Distribution, Government of India. He has around 28 years of rich experience at the district, state and the country levels in development administration, of which 10 years has been in commodity markets. He has worked extensively with policymakers, project leaders, international agencies and government ministries, and also led multi-sectoral development projects and teams. He is a postgraduate in economics from the University of Delhi. Sir, may I request you to make your presentation or your...
Honorable Mr. Shiv Shankarappa ji, Manju ji, Vairegoda, delegates, speakers. For somebody who served 28 years in Karnataka, Invest Karnataka certainly is something which excites us. I worked here in districts like Uttar Kannada, Kodagu, Tumkur and Bangalore. And all I can say is that over the years, Karnataka has been a beacon of hope for a lot of investors, especially in agri, horticulture and agri-processing. I have been with NCML, which is essentially a warehousing finance company. We do warehousing and handle collateral for banks. Can you go to the next slide? Honourable Ministers will be happy to know that my promoter is Fairfax. Though it is a Canadian investment company, the promoter is Prem Batsa, and he's originally from Mangalore. So he still retains a very soft corner for Karnataka. He has created a $1.5 billion fund called Fairfax India, which is a investment company based out of Toronto. It's listed in Toronto, but dedicated to investments in India. So he would be very happy to invest in Karnataka, and on behalf of the Fairfax Group, I would like to commit that we would be very happy across sectors. His Current investment holdings is about $35 billion. He's committed $2 billion in the next 1.5 years into India, and he would be certainly very happy to invest in Karnataka. The other shareholders of NCML are 4 public sector banks and the Haryana Marketing Federation. Next, please. So we work with all the entire banks. We've created this ecosystem of warehouse financing, and we now have partnership with all the nationalized banks and the private sector banks, and with large number of client groups, including Cargill. Siraj is here. We do some warehousing for them as well, ITC, and with the public sector companies. Next, please. We handle about 57 commodities in 12 categories: grains, pulses, oil seeds, value-added spices, and horticulture produce. Next. So basically 5 business segments: storage and preservation, collateral management, supply chain, testing, and weather stations. Next, please. And we are present across India. I'll just focus on, since the time is short, I'll focus on 2 investment opportunities in Karnataka, and I request the honorable ministers, because what I'm going to present requires some radical thinking on the part of government. Can we move to the next slide? This is our warehouse which we have built in Raichur. Next, please. At Gadag. So instead of small warehouse complexes, we are building integrated large warehouse complexes of about 1.5 lakh square feet minimum. It has grading facilities, it has weigh bridges, so it becomes like a mini market. So we are saying farmers don't have to come first to the mandi and then to go to warehouse. They can come directly to the warehouse, where they can get finance, they can get their testing, and then we tie up with marketing companies like Cargill who will buy the produce. So basically the warehouse receipt becomes a marketable commodity, and it becomes a receipt which can be traded. So you don't require anything else except that warehouse receipt to do your business. First, don't have to come first to the mandi and then to go to warehouse. They can come there. One change which Karnataka will see, and I think Cargill, if I'm not mistaken, has already made this change.
We have a huge
The
research
ecosystem
base.
is changing.
We have more than 100 R&D
Bulk
centers.
warehousing is the order of the day.
Sound
You'll be surprised we are building a bigger complex than what I've shown of this kind in India and Bihar.
We have
So
the largest
Bihar can have a
biotech
silo
cluster in
complex
India.
of this kind.
However,
Karnataka needs to move forward. Now there the enabler is aggregation of produce. As you can see in this chamber, about 3,000 of tons of maize will come in one chamber. So it will mean 100 farmers have to come together, agree that one grade will be given in one chamber. You can have small silos, but they're not commercially viable. So if we are to move in this ecosystem, the state government, the agriculture department, the agriculture extension workers will have to work with silo operators to create that ecosystem. And I'm sure companies like Cargill would be happy to work along with you. Companies like us would be very happy to work with you. If you do not do it, the country is not going to stay behind. You'll find everybody else will go. Because when Cargill wants a shipment to be exported, he wants 3,000 tons at one place at one go. He does not want gunny bags. He wants bulk, and he wants markets which can take. Even KMF wants bulk. He wants bulk, he wants assurances of quality. So this is one enabler where the state government has to work along with investors in creating this new ecosystem. Next. The next is cold stores. Karnataka, for some reason, cold chains, whether for horticulture or spices, have not come up. A small town like Guntur has about 200 cold stores. So this is our cold store at Guntur, which we have just built. There are a lot of opportunities for cold stores, especially for perishables. The way it will work in Karnataka is very different from the way it will work for spices. It could work in mandis, it could work outside mandis, and it need not be a cold chain right through. Only for interim storage do you require a cold store, especially for horticulture produce. Can you? So the positives of Karnataka, the way we see it, that the APMC Act has undergone a lot of refreshing reforms. REMS has revolutionized electronic markets. You have a lot of active mandis where electronic trading has started in about 51 mandis. And the State Warehousing Corporation has ambitious investment plans. but bulk storage, cold chain, silo storage is absent. The other thing which I don't know, I am little dated, but mandi infrastructure has not been attacked. So you still have, though you have electronic trading, the wherewithal, the platforms, the handling systems have not changed. And especially for horticulture produce like fruits and vegetables, perhaps you have 15%, 20% of wastage taking place because of poor handling at mandi yards. Grading facilities are virtually absent. We are doing some assaying in the 51 mandis, but in terms of laboratory facilities, virtually absent. And therefore large wastages, especially in fruits and vegetable handling, and virtually zero engagement with the private sector. It is almost as if we do not exist. Government wants to do everything on its own. It has the resources, very good. But we feel that the private sector could be very good partners in this ecosystem that you're trying to do, create in building a modern marketing infrastructure in agriculture. Next, please. So what we are suggesting is that all your mandis need not be privatized, but you could certainly outsource a lot of activities, including infrastructure, to credible private sector players. So you could still retain governance of the local mandis, but outsource, say, for a length of time, 20 years, 30 years time, revolutionize and reform your mandi yards. You don't require to create new spaces. Maharashtra has been trying to create private mandis. Now that is not really the answer, because you've got very valuable infrastructure created over hundreds of years. If it can be modernized, created, have bulk storage, efficient handling for horticulture produce, this is a win-win situation for marketeers, for investors, and the government and the farmers. So we're talking of mandi modernization, we are talking of grading and assaying facilities, we're talking of mechanical handling and modern handling facilities, we're talking of bulk storage, and we're talking of cold chains and interim reefer trucks and farm gate produce, or farm gate produce. On the storage plan, we are saying that you can stick to your investment plan, but why does government alone have to invest? There are several ways of creating that investment opportunities alongside the private sector. Either you could have joint ventures where you retain some equity, because when we do warehousing, our client is Cargill. Your client is only government produce, so your clientele remains limited. So you could have the benefit of this warehousing arm to create opportunities for farmers, clients, and your public PDS stocking as well. We do not envisage a situation where you need to give long-term guarantees, but some comfort that when there is a need for warehousing of maize, you will use these facilities because they'll be built according to your specification, they'll be built in your locations. So in mutually identified investment opportunities can be identified where good quality scientific infrastructure can come up. We are open to different options, and I can come up with different options which would be transparent in identification of credible investors. Next, please. So if KSWC is talking about 1 million tons, so this is the quantum of private investment which would come. If you're talking of a silos of, say, next 2-3 years of 200,000-300,000 tons, we're talking of 200 crores of investment which would come. If you're talking of just the 51 mandis where you're currently doing electronic marketing, and you create the backbone, so this is the front end. The backbone also needs reform. So we are saying this can be modernized. The government does not have to put in this money. You create an enabling environment. Certainly you'll have to work along with market committees and see that the political ecosystem doesn't get disturbed. So that is a challenge, and we are willing to work alongside you to see how we can deal with that. But certainly there is an opportunity, because once there is efficiency in the value chain, the private sector will get its return, the farmers will get lower wastage and handling, and certainly it could be a win-win situation for all. In all, we are saying that this is just the round of the kind of thing. About 1,500 crores of investment opportunities are possible even in this limited space of this 50 mandis and identified storage location infrastructure. Next, please. So what could NCML bring? would be happy to sign some kind of MOU or a commitment of investment. As I said, Prem Vatsa is from Mangalore. You would be more than happy to commit investments. We are willing to put in investments. That is not a constraint. Out of that $1.5 billion, only $200 million has been invested. $1.3 billion is available for investment. It's money which is raised and sitting in Fairfax, Toronto. For dedication in India, why not Karnataka? Why elsewhere? And we could certainly give a commitment of 150, 200 crores of investment commitments today. So with that, I'd like to thank all of you for this opportunity and wish Invest Karnataka all the very best. Thank you very much.
So thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your excellent presentation on the investment opportunities in the sector of warehousing and logistics, including cold chain facilities. I just forgot to mention that Shri Sanjay Kaul is a IAS officer of Karnataka cadre and belongs to the 1979 batch, and after his retirement he is with NCML. Thank you very much, sir. So we'll move on to the next presentation. So this presentation is about experience of doing business in Karnataka. So there are many investments that have been done, and many industries have put up their investments here. So let us hear from a person who can speak about what it means to do business in Karnataka. So we will call upon Shri Siraj A. Chaudhary, Chairman of the Cargill India Private Limited, for the next presentation. I just like to introduce him. Shri Siraj Chaudhary is the Chairman of Cargill India, the wholly owned subsidiary of Cargill Incorporated, and the CEO of Cargill Foods India. Shri Siraj Chaudhary has been an agriculture, commodity risk management and food processing industry professional for over 28 years, with stints at ITC Limited and at the State Trading Corporation of India before joining Cargill. His tenure at Cargill spans 20 years and includes handling key responsibilities and leadership role in India, as well as commodity trading role in Geneva, Switzerland. Under his leadership since 2007, Cargill India has successfully built both institutional and consumer business backed by world-class manufacturing facilities, a robust distribution network, and an enviable brand portfolio. Shri Siraj Chaudhary is a postgraduate from the Indian Institute of Foreign Trade and a graduate from Sri Ram College of Commerce, University of Delhi. So may I request you to make your presentations.
Good afternoon. I don't have a presentation, so you don't have to look here and there. You can just look at me. Honorable Ministers and friends on the dais, people present in the audience. When I walked into this hall, I mentioned to Mrs. Krishna Rao that I'm very pleased to see so many people attending a seminar on food and agriculture, because historically it's been a very dull subject. And what pleases me today is the fact that agriculture and food processing is talked or spoken about in the same breath. If you recall, 10 years ago, agriculture was agriculture and food processing was something which was considered a luxury. People who produced food for the rich people. I think what has changed over the years is the need and the relevance of food processing for agriculture. And so what is said is that agriculture, for it to create value, has to be converted to agri-business. And when you convert agriculture to agri-business, all the services that we've just heard about in terms of storage, supply chain, and processing that I'm going to be talking about all come together to increase the value for the cultivator as well as bring down the price for the consumer. So I think we are playing a very important role, and we need to see agriculture and food processing together. While I've been talking about this for many years, this truth came to hit me in a conversation I had with Honorable Shri Bairegoda many years ago, 3 years ago, when the corn prices in Karnataka were actually below the support price level, and the farmers were very distressed, and actually after the government to procure it at the MSP. And at that time we said that if you increase the processing capability of corn in the state, this problem would get solved. And we did actually go ahead and invest in a corn milling plant in Beludi village in Davangere district. And coincidentally, that plant just got inaugurated 2 weeks ago by the Honorable Chief Minister, and the Honorable Minister from Davangere was also present to grace the occasion. I'll start with coming back to the ease of doing business. So as our global chairman came for the inauguration, and he landed in Davangere, and we were driving from there to the plant in Beludi, he asked the managing director of our business, who's also not an Indian, who's Dutch actually, he's sitting in the audience, Jan Bosman. He asked him that if we, how long did we take to build this plant? And we said about 2 years. And so he said that if we were an Indian company, how much or how less time would we have taken to build this plant? And this is a conversation between two foreigners. Like, I was just listening to this conversation. And so he said that maybe we would have taken about a month more. So which tells you that, being an outside company, having no business, no sort of presence in Karnataka, it probably took us a month more than what a local company would have taken. So the chairman's next question was that if we did not get the support from the government, how long would it have taken to build this plant? And Jan's response was, we would have never built it. We would have never built it. And I think that's the final statement on why the support of the government is very important. Actually, thanks. Right, thank you. No, but you were very much instrumental in making it happen. So today, we signed the MOU for this plant in the last investor summit that we had here. And I was very pleased to come back to this summit today because as I walked around the auditorium and I walked around the halls, I could meet a lot of people who over the last few years have been extremely supportive and have enabled this plant to come up. This is a 700 crore investment with another 100 crore in the pipeline for the storage that Sanjay just mentioned about. So 800 crores investment in food and agriculture is, while it may sound small when we look at power and infrastructure and some of the other investments, but in the field of agriculture and food processing, it is one of the biggest size in a single unit. And therefore, it was a big investment for Kargil. It is Kargil's biggest investment in India. There was a lot of nervousness about whether we can carry it off. And from the time that the process started, we've heard a lot about land acquisition and, whether the government can acquire land. So we actually took the risk of buying the land from the farmers ourselves without going to the government and asking for land and getting it converted. And I was very pleased and pleasantly surprised to see Mrs. Krishna Rao sitting here today because she was the revenue secretary at that time who allowed the conversion of land. Now, conversion of land at that time, now of course the government has changed the policies, but at that time was considered near impossible. And I remember my meeting with her and she was extremely supportive. So at every stage, the industries department and whoever has set up a plant here will know that you have to deal with various government departments. So industries, environment clearance, water, power, the local environment. At every stage, there were people who came forward to help us. A lot of it was really operating from the very top level, people who were taking ownership of making this project succeed. And that was the pleasant aspect of building a plant for an outside company. Bear in mind, it's never easy. But if you have so many supporters in the government who were all working together and in fact coordinating, so whether it was the Chief Minister's office or the Minister's office or the departments in the government, industries department, they were all helping us at every stage. And not to say that we did not have problems, and actually that's a point I would want to bring forth here, that while there is a lot of support at the higher level for investment, I think the officials at the lower level, at the ground level, probably do not see it the same way. And I think it would be important for this experience that we've had, for everyone to have that experience, that there is seamless alignment between the officials in Bangalore and the officials on the ground, because they see it as a day job, a regular job, while here we are with the government and its officials trying to attract investment into the state. So I think that's one area where there can be improvement. The other thing, it is also, so what is our learning? And I want to share that because it's obviously been a very pleasant experience for us investing in the state. But some of the things that we did right, I think, was that
Arable land. That means it
we
can be
never
cultivated.
sought favors from the
India-
government. We were very clear that we need the support from the government, but we do not want anything that would put us in disproportionate advantage to anything else or would compromise any interest of the state. I think at that level, once the intent was clear that all that we needed was support and nothing else, getting that support became much easier. Then the second was that a realization that Beludi is a very relatively backward village, although it's in a very developed district of Davangere. When a large industry sets itself up in a backward area, or a rural area, let's put it that way, it creates a lot of excitement in the area. And you have a lot of interests that come up in that area who want to associate with you or would want something from you. So managing that environment for us was very important. And I think one of the first things that we did, even before we put the first stone in the ground, was to put projects on the ground that would work with the local population. So one of the first things that we did was to give financial training to the farmers who had sold their land to us. Because typically one of the problems that happens is that people who get a lot of money in the beginning by selling the land don't know what to do with it, and that goes waste, and then they start hating the people who bought the land from them. So we actually got outside agencies to come and help those farmers invest that money. The second is that we adopted 5,000 farmers. It's still work in progress, but we have a plan laid out to adopt 5,000 farmer families to develop their agricultural practices, to identify youth from that community and get them admitted into agriculture colleges so that they can come back and work in the village to develop the agriculture there. Work with the women folk in those villages to help them build capabilities on kitchen gardening so that they can grow nourishment or nourishing food around themselves, and to work with the schools in the region so that the children in that area get better educated and are therefore able to adopt better careers. So that was about getting the local community aligned with our project, because it is important for us to remember that they are going to be our neighbors for a lifetime, and building that good relationship with them is going to be very important for the success of our project. The other thing which we took responsibility for, that while the government was giving us so much support, we had to ensure that we did not give them any cause for embarrassment. And it's very easy to point that, okay, this industry is coming up there and this is what they're doing wrong, or that is what they're doing wrong. So one of the biggest things that we worked on was ensuring safety during the construction at our site. And I'm very happy to say that in an environment where probably safety, employee and health safety is not such a big focus, we've built this plant which has entailed 50 lakhs man hours to build this plant without a single accident, without not one day lost for any employee due to accident. So 5 million man hours for building this plant. And second is that we've deployed, committed to zero discharge facility, where we put in extra 25 crores to ensure that no water comes out of the plant, so that there is no impact on the environment outside the plant. And finally, we have met in the very beginning the condition to employ local population to more than 70%. So those have all been our experiences of working in the state. So far it's been very good. The request I would make to the government and people here, and that's the understanding, that building the plant is only one milestone. It's the success of those operations which become the biggest catalyst for more investment to follow. And it is our endeavor to make it a success, because that will not only encourage us to invest more in this area to expand capacities, but there are a number of aligned industries which are in the space of poultry, in the dairy feed and some other elements where our products will act as raw materials, and it will be encouraging for them to come up. So getting the plant up has been a great experience, and we look forward to having even a better experience in running the plant and making it a successful business. Thank you.
I would like to thank Mr. Siraj Chaudhary for sharing his experience. concerns of the industries, and the same seriousness also prevails at the lower level. Thank you very much, sir. Now, I would like to call on the next speaker, Sri Hari Menon, who is the CEO of BigBasket.com, and he will be speaking about the opportunities in food retail. So let me introduce Mr. Hari Menon. Is the co-founder and CEO of BigBasket.com, a company he co-founded in December 2011 with a vision of setting up India's largest and finest online food and grocery company. With operations having commenced in 18 cities in India, BigBasket.com plans to expand to another 8 cities over the next 2 months, making it 26 cities by March 2016. BigBasket.com delivers the entire range of groceries, fresh fruits and vegetables, fresh meat, dairy products, breads, processed foods, toiletries, personal care products, government foods, and a wide range of household products. The range has about 15,000 products. An alumnus of BITS Pilani, Sri Hari Menon started his career with ORG system, subsequently moving on to work with many of the best and respected names in the country, including TVS Electronics, Wipro, Infotech, Planetasia.com, and Integrated Data Systems. May I now request Sri Hari Menon to make his presentation.
Honorable Ministers, speakers and delegates. I represent the retail sector, and within that sector I represent the new age e-commerce piece, and within the e-commerce piece actually I represent the food and grocery business, which we consider to be the most complex and the most difficult business from an execution standpoint, and that's BigBasket.com. So just to take you through a little bit on what we see from a market perspective as to where food and grocery overall and from an e-commerce perspective is really growing. We are very dependent on the internet. So obviously for us the growth on the internet and people using the internet is very critical, and we expect that to reach close to a 500 million or a 500 million number by 2020, and which is a large number, a very large population for businesses like us to actually really go after. We expect about 144 million households to purchase more than 5,000 rupees a month, and that's a significant number, and that's growing very significantly actually. So there's 144 million households buying more than 5,000 rupees of food and grocery. The online business by 2020 is expected to reach a number which is from a gross GMV value perspective close to about $20 billion, and that's again a significantly large number. Next. The retail size of the retail business in India is close to about $500 billion. $500 billion is the size of overall retail. 70% of that is food and grocery. So close to about $360 billion is just food and grocery in India. And just gives you a size of what it is. Expected to grow to close to about 500 billion by 2020. The online grocery space today is just scratching the surface from that perspective. It's just about close to about 150 million, what it is today, and expected to become close to 10 billion. So it will follow the same path that grocery is following as far as the overall retail is concerned in that business. So as I said, 67 to 70% of buying that happens is basically food and grocery amongst all of retail in this country. Less than 1% of that is online, and expected to grow to about 2 to 3% by 2020. Convenience is the key driver of the online piece, and will continue to remain that, like that as we go forward. But there are multiple planks that we are actually focusing on and building, and I'll talk a little bit about this going forward. Next. Technology plays a very, very key role for us, an extremely key role. We use technology right from sourcing, right from estimating, right from ordering, replacements, etc. is all everything we do is we use technology heavily. We use technology for our last mile deliveries. We use a lot of it for auto routing, making sure where our vans go, etc., etc. So we're very highly technology driven, and we'll continue doing that going forward. Farm to fork, and this is an extremely strategic piece for Big Basket. And let me just share a very interesting piece of data here, and it's not there on the slides. 20% by value of our business comes from fruits and vegetables. 20% by value. And this is about 3 times higher than what a physical chain does. A physical chain, typically the contribution is about 6 to 7%, right? And it's about 20% from an online perspective. And the reason is that people come online and they essentially want to buy everything online because they don't want to go to a store, and that's why we're able to actually drive much larger contributions. And that's extremely useful for us because it's also the largest margin driver for us. And the contribution from a gross margin perspective also comes from fruits and vegetables. So it's a very critical business for us, and this tremendous amount of focus that we are putting internally, and it's very strategic. So this entire farm to fork experience that we're actually building, the online piece gives the best from a farm to fork perspective. And the reason is that when we source either from the mandis or the farmers, it essentially comes to our warehouse, it gets processed there and goes directly to the customer. So it's the fastest source of reaching the customer because it doesn't go and sit in a store. And so this whole concept of farm to fork, we believe, is so strategic and important to us that we're going to drive a large part of our business through that. Improved customer experience through the online business. As I was telling you, convenience is a big driver. And that's followed by a wide range of products that we offer, fruits and vegetables playing a very large role there. Price competitiveness is very crucial for us because finally a consumer doesn't want to pay premium even if you're delivering it at home. So we need to be competitive, and the prices are compared, with normal markets. And of course quality. And quality is single-handedly decided by a consumer by the quality of fruits and vegetables that you deliver. So fruits and vegetables, staples and fresh meats is what decides the quality perception. Because a Surf Excel, there is no quality. Surf Excel in any place that you buy it is the same. So that is the reason why it becomes that much more critical and important for us to focus on the fruits and vegetables piece, going forward. A little bit about what we do with this in Karnataka as far as our fruits and vegetables piece is concerned. 40% of our total pan-India fresh produce is sourced from Karnataka. And that's because Karnataka, Bangalore is our single largest region, and it's growing the fastest actually from a business perspective. 30% out of that is actually sourced directly from farmers. And we're happy to state that we are now starting to get deeper in the supply chain, and we are setting up what are called collection centers, which are units that are being set up at the farming places. And we've got a large set of agronomists. We got people from agricultural backgrounds who work very closely with farmers there and make sure that we get the best produce and also support farmers in making sure that we improve yield. And I'll talk about it a little bit about going forward. So our collection centers in Karnataka are in Chikbalapur, we are in Malur, we are in Nelamangala, we are in Gokak, and we are in Mysore. And we will add a few more from an organic perspective, and that's one piece that I want to spend a little time just talking about as to how strategic and important for us going forward. We've got about 336 farmers who are empaneled with us. We've got about 1,048 acres that we are actually currently working with, and close to about 400 metric tons of fruits and vegetables are sourced from the state right now, and this is continuously growing. I just want to spend just a couple of minutes on this whole organic piece, and that's one thing that we are extremely focused on and want to build going forward. One of the charters that we're telling ourselves is that can Big Basket actually create an organic revolution in this country? And we sometimes dream big, and we sit and wonder whether we can repeat what Dr. Kurian did in terms of creating the milk revolution. And you won't believe this, but the demand for organic today is so high. We have a huge supply problem, right? So we get limited supplies from the partners that we work with currently, it doesn't sit on our shelves for more than 3 to 4 hours, and it just flies off. So we are most of the time out of stock on organic. And the reason is that we are facing a severe supply crunch. So what we really want to do is build a business around organic and set up close to about 17 to 18 collection centers which are only organic. I was just talking to my liaison officer who's been very nice and been very supportive, Mr. Anthony actually, who works in the Udupi area, and he was telling me about the problems and issues that farmers are facing today in terms of yield of organic, and why they always need a higher support price to actually sell organic. And this is something that we want to bring down. So I was asking him as to what does it take to help improve their yield, and what does it take to eventually sell organic at the same price as the normal fruits and vegetables. And if that is something we can achieve, I think we'll end up creating a revolution in this country, and we are extremely focused on that. It's slow, it's taking time. There is a lot of ethical farming that's happening in this country, but when we go down on the ground, we actually don't find too many of them. So we need to really work closely with farmers, work closely with the government to see how we can really achieve that dream. And that's one thing that we really focused on doing. Next steps, and what we are wanting to work on in terms of investing in Karnataka, especially in Karnataka, and this is something that we want to do, and we are very keen to submit proposals, around this. One is to see whether we can take the help of the government to set up a lot of testing labs for us, right? And especially in the organic space. Because what a customer looks for in organic is certification. The customer wants to be sure that what I am getting is truly organic, right? So currently, certification processes is a big struggle, right? And we don't want to go to international agencies. They charge a lot. They take a lot of time. So we currently work with this whole PGS system, and we're pretty happy with it. But one of the things that we are really wanting to see is if the government in Karnataka can actually set up certification centers where we can actually submit produce and we can get quick certification around that. Because the customer is very keen to see that. And the customer needs to believe that what we are selling is truly organic. And we'd like to work with the government in actually setting up some of that. Reduction in post-harvest losses, setting up pack houses. We're willing to make investments along with the government on that. Extended shelf life through cold chain. So we'd like to see whether we can participate in making investments and getting the government to participate around that. Ripening chambers. So we'd like to see whether we could set up a lot of ripening chambers across. And because what we really want to do is produce that comes from Karnataka, we want to start selling to other states. And that's the whole idea of setting up these collection centers. Standardization of organic production. The certification process that I just talked about. And organic, I think we believe is the way to go, and we'd like to invest heavily into it. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Mr. Harimanan, for that excellent presentation on the opportunities in the food retail sector. And here I would like to just add that in the state of Karnataka, nearly about 67,000 hectares is under organic farming, and more than 75,000 farmers are involved in this. And the Department of Agriculture and Horticulture, we give a lot of emphasis for this organic farming, and we can always explore possibilities of tying up with those companies that will be interested in exploiting this potential of organic farming. Thanks a lot, and we move on to the next speaker, Shri R. Amalur Pavanathan, who is the Deputy Managing Director of NABARD, and he will be speaking about the financing for rural infrastructure. Just a few lines of introduction of Mr. Amalur Pavanathan, who is currently Deputy Managing Director of NABARD, is a graduate in agriculture engineering and a postgraduate in management. He holds Masters in Development Management and a Fellow in Engineering and Chartered Engineer, and secured distinction and Certified Associated in Banking. Shri Amalur Pavanathan has more than 31 years of varied experiences in the areas of finance and banking. He was a member of Asia Pacific Policy Forum and specializes in strategic management in rural development. Under his guidance, NABARD could obtain approval for 6 adaptation projects from AFB and accredited as NIE of Green Climate Fund, and NIE for National Adaptation Fund for Climate Change. May I now request Mr. Amalur Pavanathan to make his presentation.
Honorable Ministers on the dais, other dignitaries, and the distinguished delegates. I would like to take very few minutes to outline the strategy of NABARD in financing rural infrastructure development projects. We look into the entire gamut of the rural infrastructure right from pre-production stage, that is from the land records, lease market development for lands, and also the input supply manufacturing, and also during the production there are several types of inputs that is required, manufacturing and supply of inputs, and post-harvest handling and marketing. So we cover the gamut of infrastructure that is required. The delegates here they have pointed out some of the bottlenecks, some of the limitations, and some of the shortcomings in developing the business in India, especially in Karnataka. I found that many of the things can be addressed because the infrastructure is the one that need to cope with that. Every individual entrepreneurs may not be able to set up the infrastructure. There has to be a common infrastructure that has come in. And the infrastructure is of two kinds. One is for agriculture. Predominantly in our Rural Infrastructure Development Fund, we have been funding most of the investments is for agriculture. That is like irrigation development, land development, etc. But also to facilitate the private capital formation, the governments can also take advantage of this to create kind of a basic necessities to induce private investment, that is in agriculture. For example, I would like to quote with your big basket. So there is a need for product standardization, there is a need for product assurance, quality assurance. These kind of things has to be done at the farmers level, farmer collective level. Because big baskets, whatever they do, again, they would not go up to the farmers in a big way. And why big basket? Anybody can come in if it is set up at the farmer collectives levels, and then assurance is given what kind of product the farmer is producing, etc. So there is a lot of infrastructure is required. Somebody talked about the shortcomings in the agri market development. So there are a lot of infrastructure that needs to be developed in terms of handling, in terms of certification, in terms of storing, logistics, etc. So a lot of infrastructure is required, and it can be done on the PPP mode or the government agencies or even the private mode. They can be set up in these areas. NABARD looks into the entire gamut of the infrastructure development in this agriculture and rural development. Again, there is a lot of potential in the sectors allied to agriculture, like animal husbandry, poultry, all other fisheries. Fisheries again is a very big sector in Karnataka, in the coastal areas especially. There's a lot of infrastructure, cold storage facilities need to be created, logistics have to be created, and this entire infrastructure requires huge amount of investments. Now we have two types of products in NABARD. One is a standard product which is being delivered through the government channels, and the second is the NABARD Infrastructure Development Assistance, which is capable of structuring to the individual needs, individual requirements. Any company, any other entity that is coming to their need will structure this. Normally infrastructure financing about 10 years, 15 years is going to be very difficult. We have products which can go up to even 25 years of product. So in Karnataka, I would like to just outline, we have extended loans up to say 10,484 crores for rural infrastructure, of which 1,224 crores has come in very recently for the warehouse infrastructure. And we are also supporting the public procurement and procurement agencies for creating warehouses and storage facilities. We have already given about 442 crores, very recent phenomena, that is we have given 442 crores on this one. So my suggestion is that any agencies which is willing to work for the farmers, either directly or through the collectives, they are welcome. And we would also have a negotiation with them about the way that we can work with the farmers collective. You must have listened to the last budget meet that
we are in the process of formulating the large number of POs. And I am happy to announce that the Karnataka government has come out with a specific package of help for the farmers. It is better for the companies to work through the farmers' collectives, so that what happens, the technology can be mainstreamed to the farmers through these collectives. So the collective development, farmers' organization development is going to be the thing for the next 5 to 10 years of to come. Because the private entrepreneurs, private entities will not be able to invest to go into the individual farmers, whereas we can use the farmers' collectives by training them. We are also going into them in a very big way to skill building and enterprise development in the farming sectors. So these enterprise development centers will also be set up by NABARD by collaborating various efforts of the government. And incidentally, the collaboration is the one that is lacking, because there are extension services, there are technical services, there are skill building services, but there is a kind of the lack of coordination that is lacking, that we are going to step in there, and then we produce the coordinated effort. We will take responsibility for coordinating with the various agencies and converge all the products, all the schemes of the farmers through NABARD in the years to come. And I stop here. Thank you very much for the patient listening.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Amalur Pavanathan, for that presentation from NABARD. We move on to the next presentation. It's basically about investment potential in dairy sector, and the presentation will be made by Mr. Rakesh Singh. Mr. Rakesh Singh is an IAS officer of Karnataka cadre belonging to the 1988 batch, and is of the rank of the Principal Secretary to the Government of Karnataka, and presently is the Managing Director of KMF. So, may I request you to make your presentation, sir?
Honorable Ministers, respected speakers, ladies and gentlemen, I am here on behalf of Karnataka Milk Federation, and right in the beginning I'll give you what are the investment potentials in Karnataka under the PPP mod. Presently we have identified 6 projects. They are available on the screen, and I'll be talking about these projects briefly sometime later. I'll give some statistics about the dairy sector, what has happened in the last 4 to 5 decades. When India became independent, our milk production was something around 17 million metric tons. In 1970, it became 22 million metric tons. And this year, we'll be crossing something around 160 million metric tons. And today, the dairy sector has become one of the most important rural sector, where almost 7 crore households are dependent on dairy. In the per capita availability of milk in India in 2015-16 is around 309 grams per day per person, which is higher than the world average, which is something around 294 grams, and which was something 112 grams 40 years back. And from a milk deficit country, we have become a milk surplus country, and that has basically because of the contribution from the farmers. Karnataka Milk Federation is the second largest cooperative milk federation in the country, and though being second is a kind of achievement, but Amul is way ahead of us. So with the support of Government of Karnataka and what best we could do, we are trying our best to reach further. Next. This slide talks about in the last 40 years how we have developed. In 1975, there was an organization called KDDC. In 1984, it became KMF. And in 2015-16, we have achieved many milestones which are available on the next slide. Like any other cooperative sector, we are a 3-tier structure, where at the primary level, where the collection of milk takes place, is the milk societies. In Karnataka, we have something around 14,000 milk societies where around 22 lakh producer farmers are there. The mid-level, that is the milk union, we have 14 milk unions in the state which are responsible for procurement and processing. And at the apex level, we have Karnataka Milk Federation, which is responsible for strategic direction and marketing. Next. The brand name of KMF is Nandini. Everybody is aware in Karnataka, and now we have reached some other adjacent states like Andhra, Tamil Nadu, far-off states like Jammu and Kashmir, Northeast. We are selling our UHT milk there. Government of Karnataka and KMF has made a commitment to the farmers that whatever milk he brings to our collection center, every drop is collected. That is the reason that we are surplus throughout the year. We have 60 and odd products. We have almost 15 crore payments every day. Next. If you see the growth trend in last 4 years, our procurement has risen by almost 11% and sales have risen by 8%, meaning thereby that every day the surplus milk that is available with us is increasing. That's why these projects, what I'll be talking later, for the PPP partnership is available. Next. In the present year, on an average, surplus is around 15 lakh liters, and during the peak it goes up to 20 lakh liters. What I mean by surplus is that the milk that is available to me, which I have not been able to sell as raw milk or a milk product. And in the last 14-15 months, the cost of milk powder has become very, very low. Next. The 6 projects what I was talking about is, the first one is milk conversion plants. So what I said, that every day we have surplus milk that is sent for conversion. Presently we have, in KMF, we have a capacity of something like 90 metric tons to be converted every day, meaning thereby almost 10 lakh liters. So we have proposed that we should have one plant of 100 metric tons. The next is UHT health drink project. This is a very fascinating drink. It has hit the market very well. Amul is doing very, very well. So we propose a plant of something like 30,000 bottles per hour. Next. Presently we have 5 cattle feed plants and producing something like 1,400 to 1,500 metric tons every day. But our requirement is something like 2,500 to 3,000 metric tons per day. So we are proposing 2 cattle feed plants under this relationship. Next is blown films. We have an in-house capacity of something like 300 metric tons per month, where our actual requirement is between 750 to 800 metric tons per month. Next is corrugated boxes. We don't have any in-house facility. What we are proposing is that our requirement is 1,300 to 1,500 metric tons every month. We are proposing 1 plant to start with. And the last one is deep freezer facility. We have some in-house freezer facility available. We want to create a 2,000 metric ton freezer facility at a dedicated place. Next. This relationship is still in an evolving stage, but what we have proposed, the business model is that Government of Karnataka through KMF will be committed to the equity of KMF will be land. We have identified land at dedicated places on the basis of logistics. And there will be a kind of buyback facility assurance for a limited quantity at a rate to be fixed between the investor and us. And what is to be brought by the investor is the investment for the plant, operation of the plant, and transferring the plant after a dedicated period, which will be part of our tender requirements. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, sir. That's a huge potential that exists for public-private partnership projects in KMF. So we move on to the next speaker. We heard about the experience of Kargil in doing business in Karnataka, and we'll have one more speakers from the ITC group who will be speaking about his experience of doing business in Karnataka. We have Mr. V.L. Rajesh, who is the CEO of ITC Foods Limited. And a brief introduction about Mr. Rajesh is that he is the CEO of the food business of ITC, a graduate of IIM Calcutta. Is a lifetime lifer at ITC, having spent about 25 years in the company. He has handled many assignments in sales, marketing and operations. He was part of the team which was tasked with creating food business of ITC. The business started in 2002, and in 2014-15 it crossed $1 billion in turnover. May I now request Mr. Rajesh to make his presentation.
Ladies, gentlemen, honorable ministers, nivelarigu namaskara, suswagata. Okay. We are running way behind schedule, and my time limit is actually very short, and I'll at least try and stick to it. So you all know why you should be investing in Karnataka, right? It's a growing state. It contributes to 6% of India's GDP. It's growing at 12% over the last 10 years. It already leads the country in various things like research and development, IT, which you're aware of. 40% of our exports and software are from Karnataka. Biotech, 60% of the units are here. The maximum number of R&D units are in Bangalore or in Karnataka. And it is the startup leader, as you all know. There are several startups, including Hari's Big Basket here. And there is Pharma. But as you saw, food processing has still got some way to go. But there are some interesting stories. And more importantly, I think there is also good potential for renewable energy, because we've got 30 megawatts of wind energy implanted in the state. And therefore, I think it's good, and it's got a good talent pool as well. So this is me telling you this, but why should you even listen, right? ITC, as many of you know, maybe some don't, is a very large corporate group. We are nearly 50,000 crores or $8 billion. The foods business which I head is one of the youngest foods businesses in the country. We started in 2002, and it's now, it crossed $1 billion or 6,500 crores last year, and it's continuing to grow at a rapid rate. So in this process, we've had lots of interesting journeys, and therefore this is why we think we should be investing here in Karnataka. But apart from foods, which business is headquartered here in Karnataka, ITC, the group, is headquartered at Calcutta, and I think it served us well being headquartered here in Karnataka. Apart from this, we have 13 manufacturing units across the ITC group here. We have 9 hotels, 1,250 rooms. We employ more than 10,000 people. Some of you might be staying in our hotels, ITC Gardenia and ITC Windsor here, apart from the Fortune Group. We have a 300,000 square feet R&D facility here, probably one of the most advanced in the world. We have 345 scientists, 85 PhDs working all here in Karnataka. And we of course have many factories which manufacture everything from tobacco to this. And plus we also procure a lot of agri-produce here in Karnataka. We produce, of course, tobacco, but also a big chunk of coffee from this state, which we export mostly. More importantly is the quality of our investment, because ITC is probably the only company of its size in the world which is water positive. That means we harvest more water than we consume. Solid waste positive, which means that we consume more solid waste than we generate. And carbon positive, in that we sequester more carbon than we generate as a group. So the quality of investment that we make in a state is also indicative of these environmental and social impacts that we have. We continue to invest in a lot of social measures, which I'll not get into. As far as Invest Karnataka is concerned, so as you can see, we are already very heavily invested in the state. So maybe Invest Karnataka comes a little late for us, but having said that, we laud the efforts of the government and the Honorable Chief Minister in these proactive steps of facilitating investments in the state of Karnataka. And more importantly, probably what's not a well-known fact, and forgive me, Mr. Barigoda, if I'm divulging some of your own thing, is that this agri and food processing policy which just come out in the end of 2015, and all the incentives that are there in that, I think the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Processing has really fought hard, even within the government, to make it happen. So I think we should give them a big round of applause for making this happen. And hopefully will also attract a lot of investment for this state of Karnataka. And it's also quite timely because we know that Karnataka is very diverse and rich in agri-produce, and I think it makes a lot of sense that this policy has come out when it has. And the investing in the agri sector, as you all know, has a multi-dimensional impact because ITC could have gotten into any business. But we chose the agri sector because I think at the end of the day, you're not going to prosper or you're not going to last very long if the incentive is only to make profit for yourselves. Because there is a question of increasing farm income. We need to have inclusive growth, otherwise I don't think it's sustainable. We need to reduce wastage of agri-produce because only 10% or less of agri-produce in India is processed. Even the Philippines processes 70%. So you can imagine. We've got a long way to go. Similarly, we need to value add to agri-produce, and that can only happen through the fruit processing industry. And of course, it generates employment and infrastructure in agrarian zones, which is non-agrarian, which I think will help in the growth of the economy in rural areas. So we are already large here. Do I think it's a good idea to invest in Karnataka? Well, let me put facts on the table. You don't need to listen to me saying yes or no. Is we have another 1,750 crores invested right now in the last 9 months, which will fructify over the next 2 to 3 years by the ITC group, which straddles everything from food factories. We have 2 of them coming up. We have agri-produce processing units, we have hotels, we have office space, probably the largest office space in the country, 2.3 million square feet coming up in the heart of the city. All of those being invested in this state, and which we believe that is going to result in good things. But having said this, having said the fact that we are already very heavily invested and that we have a lot of investments coming, it is a competitive world. Our company and many of us are going around from state to state because everybody is having investor summits and everybody wants the investors' money. For many of our friends who come from outside, this is the first time in independent India that states are clamoring for investors, right? There are investor summits where everybody is competing for your money. But I think it's not just about subsidies, because competitive subsidies have become par for the course. What is more important is what is the ease of doing business on the ground. How easy is it to get the clearances? How easy is it to get the licenses? How easy is it to get panchayat construction licenses, for example, if you want to be in the backward zone outside of the city? What quality of life can you provide to your employees who will be posted to these so-called backward zones? So it has to be an integrated solution. It will come not just through incentives and and subsidies, but also from infrastructure and creating the second part of what I wanted to say, a market. Agri-produce doesn't sell itself. Processed food doesn't sell itself. We have to invest in the market. We have to sell it out there. That risk is not taken by anybody else but the food processing unit, and many of you sitting here will know that. So I think it's just both in terms of the back end, in terms of helping us set up units, facilitating the construction, making them operational with the minimum amount of hassle, and also facilitating the construction of a market going forward. I wish the government of Karnataka all the very best in their endeavors, and all of those who are planning to invest in the state as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rajesh, for sharing the experience of ITC in doing business in Karnataka. We have the next presentation from the Director General of ICRISAT. ICRISAT stands for International Crop Research Institute for Semi-Arid Tropics, and Mr. David Bergvinson is the Director General of ICRISAT, and he will be making a presentation on technological partnerships with industry. Mr. David Bergvinson has worked with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and he has handled large development projects. And his expertise and passion is for digital agriculture. May I request Mr. David Bergvinson to make his presentation?
Thank you. Distinguished delegates, it's a true privilege to join you at Invest Karnataka. It's clearly an exciting time in India. I see it as a pivotal time in India, where we see a tremendous inflection in the economy. As was pointed out in the morning session, it's a sweet spot in the global economy right now. And I would submit that the blend of technologies is really the opportunity for innovation in India, and Karnataka is extremely well positioned in that regard. When we look at the strong IT sector, the strong agriculture sector, strong biotechnology sector, how can we bring these together in order to bring about broad-based economic development, and to do that in a very accelerated manner? I believe that public-private partnerships are the way in which we can achieve that goal, and clearly the Chief Minister has that vision in mind. I've been privileged to now live in India for the past year as the Director General of ICRISAT, but prior to that I lived in Seattle, where I worked for the Gates Foundation, and Bill Gates had me focus on how to leverage digital technology, that's cloud computing, mobile phones, remote sensing, and genomics, to accelerate the pace of development and to increase the prosperity of smallholder farmers in sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia. And I think that right now is the time where we can really harness this opportunity, given Prime Minister Modi's call for a digital India, given the leadership that you have currently in Karnataka and the focus around creating an enabling environment for private sector investment to sustain development and to make sure that development takes place in a very equitable manner. With 60% of the population tethered to agriculture, clearly this session is very important to realizing the Chief Minister's vision. I want to just highlight a few things, and in the folder that's been circulated around big ideas for partnership and sustainable development, it lays out 4 different domains where public-private partnerships can be realized in order to drive sustainable growth and do so while still living within the ecological boundaries of the planet. And it's been mentioned several times, the dual challenge India has around addressing nutrition and doing so with limited water resources. And so clearly, with agriculture consuming 70% of the fresh water, we have to do a much better job of harnessing partnerships and technology to produce not just sufficient food, but nutritious food, and do so in a sustainable manner. And so in this folder, it lays out several ideas, including digital agriculture, as vehicles by which to achieve those goals. Given that time is short, in that folder you'll also see ideas around commercialization of agriculture that empower smallholder farmers to be successful entrepreneurs, which they are. You'll also see how we think about leveraging mobile technology, as was pointed out by some of our speakers this afternoon, to provide equitable opportunities for farmers to enter into a structured marketplace so that they can translate their surplus production into economic opportunity. I was very much encouraged to hear about the investment in silo technology to bulk and maintain the quality of food so that that can be later transferred into high-value products. So how do we bring about partnerships? I think the entry point for effective partnership is a shared vision and a goal, and the government of Karnataka is working towards that. I'm privileged to be a part of a visioning team for agriculture for the state of Karnataka that's led by Professor M.S. Swaminathan, in which we're going to be looking at the allied sectors and the different components of agriculture that are required to be modernized in order to better serve the needs of smallholder farmers and to empower them to realize their full potential. So areas of partnership that we're looking at with the private sector around market integration of access to high-quality inputs and improved technology like hybrid seed, the translation of knowledge into adoption of best management practices to increase not just productivity, but also integration into the marketplace to increase profitability. And at the end of the day, creating awareness with consumers so that they purchase food that leads to higher nutrition. Malnutrition is a serious constraint that's holding India back from realizing its full potential. And so we need to create awareness within the consumer base around the importance of balanced diets and nutrition in order for especially youth to realize their full potential. So all of these things taken together are really the breeding grounds for what we would call effective quadruple P. Public-private producer partnerships, in which farmers are part of the partnership in order to sustain agriculture growth within the state. I would also say that another opportunity we see is around convergence. Convergence across the public and private sectors to work in concert and to build a consortium that leads to sustainable, scalable solutions. And so within the folder we shared with you there's a page on how to build effective consortium around public-private partnerships that maximize our impact on society that leads to sustainable, equitable solutions. So I encourage you to have a look at this folder for more details and to follow us up with a conversation in the hall after the session. Thank you for this opportunity, and it's extremely exciting to be a part of this fantastic movement in Karnataka. Investing in Karnataka is a solid investment. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, thanks, David Bugwinson. In fact, the state of Karnataka, especially the Department of Agriculture, has partnered with ICRISAT in a number of programs, and our experience has been very good, and the state has reaped rich benefits out of this partnership. Now, I would like to call upon the stage our Honorable Minister for Agriculture and Food Processing, Shri Krishna Bairegowda, who will be speaking about need to increase the farmers' income through value addition. Sir.
ವೇದಿಕೆ ಮೇಲಿರುವ ಮಾನ್ಯ ಮಂತ್ರಿಗಳೇ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಅತಿಥಿಗಳೇ, ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಾಗಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಿರುವ ಕೃಷಿ ಆಹಾರ ಸಂಸ್ಕರಣೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರತಿನಿಧಿಗಳೇ, ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಸಹ ನನ್ನ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರಗಳು. ಹಾಗೂ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಿದ್ದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಸಹ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು ಸಹ. Thank you all for sparing your time, sharing your inputs, and encouraging us along the path of food processing, value addition, and ultimately better incomes to farmers. The Indian agri and food processing sector has come a long way, a very long way in fact, in a relatively short span of 60 years. Very few of us today remember the phrases either ship to mouth or PL 480. It was not very long ago. I am sure a few of you sitting in this hall today lived through an age of ship to mouth through PL 480. I may have to refresh your memory, indulge with me on that. We didn't have enough food to feed our own people, and there were starvation deaths in our country, and we had to beg food from other countries which came in the form of PL 480. And through that food, we had to save our lives. Not very long ago. Today, we have come a long way. After independence, our food production was in the range of 50 million tons of cereals. Today, cereal production has crossed 260 million tons, grown by more than 5 folds. We can not only feed our own people, take care of not only food security, but dignity of the nation. No country can claim to have self-dignity, self-respect if we have to beg others for basic survival. Today, we are not only self-sufficient, in situations of crisis in other countries, we are in a situation where we can ship them free food. Today, we have come a long way where our food exports are more than $22 billion. Unlike many other sectors, which are a drain on national economy, food trade is a net surplus trade for India, where we export much more than we import when it comes to food and agriculture sector. So agriculture sector is earning net revenue for our country today. The same sector where we had to save lives by begging for food from other countries. So we have traveled a long way. Let us keep that in mind. But at the same time, I don't want to harp exclusively on the journey traveled. The focus should be on the journey forward, where the opportunities are even more than the distance we have traveled so far. In 91, we unleashed economic reforms covering many sectors. But one of the areas that has been kept out of the reform process is agriculture. And as a result, we have not fully realized the potential of agriculture and food processing in our country. But the reform process we unleashed in the early 90s has created a situation which is acting as a pull for reforms in the food processing. It is acting as a demand-driven force on the food processing sector as well. What do I mean by that? The forces of reforms we unleashed more than 20 years ago are fundamentally changing our lifestyles today. And the changing lifestyles of double income family, leaving less time for time at home, time for cooking. This is creating a demand for processed, semi-processed, ready-to-eat foods in our urban centers these days. So there is a pull from the changing, evolving nature of our society, and this pull is creating opportunities. That is where packaged food market is increasing. That is where players like Big Basket are able to see opportunities. That is where organized retail is expanding in our country. And if the retail sector is expanding, to feed the expanding retail sector, we need a backup of food processing. And that, in turn, will create direct linkages with farmers also in due course of time. And when that happens, the current inefficient food market, agriculture marketing systems that we have built up, where there are many layers between the grower and the ultimate consumer, those need to get consolidated. And once they get consolidated, and once the gap between the consumer and the grower reduces, that will lead to better incomes to farmers. And that's our ultimate goal. For the government of Karnataka, we believe food processing sector is a priority for us, not just for the sake of industry, not just for the sake of investment, not just for the sake of revenue, not just for the sake of urban markets. We believe it's a priority for us because we believe ultimately it will lead to better incomes to farmers. And that's why our Chief Minister and our government is fully committed to encourage investments in this sector. We will stretch ourselves. We will do all we can in our limits to make sure Karnataka is a good place for your investments. We will try to facilitate your investments, and there will be many challenges. Our good friend from Kargil Street, Siraj Hussainji, mentioned that there needs to be alignment with the thinking at the top down to the lower levels. We realize it's a problem and we are working on it. We are changing the entire land conversion process in Karnataka. It's a difficult process, it's a politically contentious process, but we are committed to bring in those necessary reforms to make investing in Karnataka a much easier business to do. There will be challenges for your investments. Everything will not be as smooth as we expect it to be. But we, it could be Ministry of Agriculture, Horticulture, Animal Husbandry, Food Processing, Ministry of Industries, we will work with you. That's our promise. We will work with you to make sure that your experience in Karnataka will be as pleasant as it can be. And those of you who have reached out to us, I'm sure you would have had that experience. Like what was shared by our representative from Kargil. If you reach out to us, if you escalate your challenges to us, we can facilitate. We can make that a lot more easier, because we are very keen that Karnataka becomes a base for food processing sector. I anticipate that the food processing sector will grow and will grow beyond the current projected estimates, because the lifestyle changes that I see taking place in our society are not adequately, I feel, measured. And the lifestyle changes taking place will force dramatic market changes, I anticipate. There are few like Big Basket who are anticipating this change. They are investing themselves on this evolving situation. But still, we have seen many industries where we might have expected a growth of 10% have actually grown 50%, 100% in a matter of 2 to 3 years. I anticipate. And I believe that food processing is one sector where we will see dramatic change in the next 5-6 years.
Karnataka itself, Veolia itself has...
So I urge you to look at this sector. There are many opportunities, many places as I see. You are representatives from the food processing industry. You understand this market, this sector much better than I do. But from my perspective, organized retail is one area where I feel your investment would be definitely worth it. If you talk to any urban resident, they find that shopping in organized multi-brand retails is a much better experience. There is reliability, there is quality of service, and assured delivery of expectations. So I see organized retail as an expanding opportunity. While we are still talking about organized retail, every day we are inundated with advertisements for online food grocers. There is one representative on the stage, and there are maybe many representatives here, and there are many more outside, where every day we see advertisements for online grocers. This could fundamentally cause a disruptive change. But I still believe that there is space for online groceries to exist as well as organized retail groceries to exist. but online space is something we need to watch out for. While this is unfolding still, we are already seeing app-based direct farmer-to-consumer sales happening already. So we don't know, we can't fully anticipate what technology holds in store for us. Even before we anticipate something, it could be a reality. So now I see that farmers are being enabled to market their produce directly to consumers. So suddenly, agri-retail startups have become a hot arena. We escalated this to the Government of India recently, and I'm glad to notice that Honorable Prime Minister mentioned it upon our request about 15 days ago. Honorable Prime Minister has taken it up, and the Government of India has promised support for agriculture-related startups as well. So this is an evolving scenario where there are a lot of opportunities, I feel. And opportunities, as was already presented, are there enormous opportunities in logistics, warehousing, chain management. Because it could be organized retail, it could be online retail, or it could be direct farmer to consumer. At every stage, every one of these industries will require efficient chain management. So warehouses, we ourselves are building warehouses, and there's plenty of opportunity for PPP in logistics management as well. Government of Karnataka is also looking at private-public participation mode for agriculture extension, for running custom hire centers, for agriculture mechanization, and also, as I mentioned earlier, for warehouses as well. And Mr. Kaul was mentioning earlier about integrated warehouses operating as markets themselves. And under the amended agriculture marketing laws of Karnataka, we can recognize warehouses either as sub-markets, or we can also recognize you as a fully independent agricultural market as well. So we are moving in the direction of warehouse-based sales. That's our next priority for us. We are also looking at contract farming, which is already legal in Karnataka. We are also exploring legal dimensions for leasing agricultural land. This is again a politically contentious issue, but we are looking at it. I must mention about organic produce. In Karnataka, through our various departments, we have already 2 years ago, we adopted a cluster-based organic agriculture. As a result, Government of India started that program in the current financial year. But we started about 2 years ago a cluster-based approach instead of isolated farmers. So as a result, we have about more than 600 clusters of organic farmers. There is about 54,800 hectares of certified organic farming. And there are about more than 1 lakh hectares under conversion process into organic farming, out of which Department of Agriculture itself is promoting about 67,000 hectares of conversion into organic cultivation. And all these farmers, since they are in clusters, we are forming them into groups of farmers. So retailers don't have to invent the whole wheel. We will deliver to you clusters, we will deliver to you knowledgeable organic farmers, we will deliver to you certified organic farmers, and we have already invested more than 50 crores on enabling these farmers to become organic farmers. We have given them composting units, we have given them azola units, whatever is required. We have hired NGOs to train these farmers to become organic. So we have done the investment. So you just need to plug into this system to start linking them with the markets. Through the Department of Horticulture, we are also doing farmer producer organizations. We are promoting them on a big scale this year. That's a flagship program for Government of Karnataka, where we are bringing farmers together so that they can act as collective agents instead of individual farmers. And our horticulture department is trying its best to link directly with retailers so that there is market to farmer direct linkages. And the retailers are welcome to participate in our organic program and also in the farmer producer organization program. And we will take care of the extension part, we will take care of the ground part. If necessary, we will invest on the reefer vans, we will invest on the warehouses, we will invest on the machinery that's required for these farmers. You only need to give them market connectivity. So there are opportunities, as I see, at all levels. As I said earlier, all these we are committed because we believe farmer is not getting a fair share of the consumer's price. So our objective is to increase income to farmers by ensuring that the farmer gets a greater share of the consumer's price, which is right now being eaten away by many intermediaries in the process. So we want to reduce those intermediaries, and we want to link farmers as closer to consumers as possible so that the agriculture market, instead of ups and downs, becomes a more stable experience. We have ups and downs because there is no close communication between the markets and the growers. And if we reduce these barriers, which distort flow of information between these two, we feel that there would be better communication and linkages will lead to more stable markets as well for the farmer produce. I'm sure you have offers from different states as well. Every state, as was mentioned in the morning, is trying to woo investments. On behalf of Karnataka, on behalf of Government of Karnataka, my appeal to you is, all things considered, there may be few positives in some states, some other positives in some other states. As was mentioned earlier, we have come out with perhaps the most competitive agri-business policy in the country. Ours is the latest policy that was unveiled just about a month and a half ago. We have matched, our agri-business policy has matched all the best incentives being offered by all states. We have studied all those policies and tried to make ours the most competitive. We understand that's just one part of it. The incentives are not alone. Karnataka has about 10 agroclimatic zones, which means that virtually the array of crops that can be produced in our states can be matched by very few other states. So if you make Karnataka your base, you can be assured of a wider variety, wider range of crops that are available to you. And hence this could serve as your base to serve the needs of other states as well. And the environment in Karnataka, the friendly nature of us, the Kannadigas, the welcoming nature of us, the large-heartedness of Kannadigas is something that you cannot match in any other state. So all things considered, there may be a few challenges, I admit. But all things considered, I feel Karnataka is your best destination for investments in food processing sector. So I invite you all to take a good look, to take a hard look at the opportunities available and to take our word that we will work with you to make your experience a great one so that ultimately the farmers of Karnataka, the farmers of India can get the benefits. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir. That was excellent presentation and overview of the entire agri-business sector and the opportunities, and especially the prevailing scenario in the country, in the state, and what the agriculture and allied departments are to offer. So we have finished all the presentation, but we have really crossed our time limits. In fact, the next session was scheduled at 4 o'clock. We are already 4:40. I am afraid we don't have any scope for question answer session. So we'll directly go to the vote of thanks by Sri Chenappa Gowda, Secretary, Animal Husbandry.
If any of you have need for any clarifications or any discussion for any proposed investment expansion, tomorrow we are available. There are these B2G discussion rooms behind the inaugural. So 11 a.m. onwards, any of you can drop in. Okay? Thank you.
Honorable Ministers, respected delegates and the speakers. For the last 2.5 hours, our speakers have enlightened us where the investment is, and also they have brought to the notice of the government where the interventions of the government of Karnataka is required. Taking note of these things, my sincere regards and thanks to the Honorable Ministers, Sri Krishna Bairegowda ji, Honorable Minister for Agriculture, Shavanu Shivar Henkapara ji, Honorable Minister for Horticulture, A. Manju ji, Honorable Minister for Animal Husbandry and Sericulture. And because of the paucity of time, I thank each and every speakers on the dais. Thank you, sir. And my sincere thanks to Madam Lata Krishna Rao, Additional Chief Secretary and Development Commissioner, who has taken the keen interest in establishing this session on the agricultural investment. And I thank all the delegates who are present here. Thank you all. Jai Hind, Jai Karnataka. Jai Hind, Jai Karnataka.
Liaison officers attached to the speakers are requested to collect the speakers' bags and hand it over to them. Thank you.
अरे सर हेलो there is one more session. Okay. Ali, camera talkon ಆಗ್ತವ್ರೆ. They are pushing the camera. So that's why I removed. Liaison officers. Please represent the इधर का तो speakers ललिता के लिए कनेक्ट कर लेगा. ओके. ये दे तो आगे सेक्शन में हां नंबर खत्म हो गया पूरा नहीं चलेगा अभी है पूरा नहीं है और एक सेकंड स्टार्ट स्टॉप कर दो ना फिर हाँ स्टॉप कर देंगे भाई मत कर चल रहे कैमरा कनेक्ट करेगा ना आ जाएगा इसका एक है भाई हमने ले गया पंकज ये बहुत बड़ी का साला आधा समय इधर कर रहा है आधा समय घंटे वहाँ कर रहा है तो क्या क्या जा रहा है लेकर घंटे उसको बैंक के रोड तो नहीं पता क्या जा रहा है लेकर इसके बाद एक और है एक और इसके बाद कितनी देर का है वो डेढ़ घंटे का
ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಲೈಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಫೀಸರ್ಸು ಸ್ಪೀಕರ್ಸ್ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಹೋಗಬೇಕು ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಕರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬರಬೇಕು ಸ್ಪೀಕರ್ಸ್ ಅವರನ್ನ
ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಏನು ಸರ್ ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಸರ್ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಹೋगा
Event schedule. Hall number 3, hall number 2. इसके बाद है फाइनेंशियल बिजनेस एंड प्रोजेक्ट.
फाइनेंशियल बिजनेस एंड प्रोजेक्ट.
हाँ बिजनेस एंड प्रोजेक्ट. फाइनेंस एंड प्रोजेक्ट.
They are pushing my camera. So that I have removed.
कैमरा वो हिल रहा है आपका.
Yeah.
लोग आ रहे हैं बहुत जा रहे हैं. So shaking.
Too many people they are going and coming. They are shaking the
passing.
One hour break?
One more. 1 hour.
4:30, 5:30. तो ಬೇರೆ ಸರ್ ಈ ಬ್ಯಾಚ್ ಹೋಗೋದು ಬೇರೆ ಸರ್ ಸ್ಪೀಚ್
हाँ
ಹೋಗೋದು ಬೇರೆ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ ಅಥವಾ ಇವರಿಗೆ ಬನ್ನಿ
हिंदी इंग्लिश. हाँ हाँ
क्या गिराया नीचे ये क्या है टाइम पास कर रहा हूँ क्या करूँ
लो आप भी करो.
वो कैमरे से फीड निकालता है, वापस लेता तो अपने आप आ जाता है। हाँ तो गाड़ी फट गई, मेरे को चक्कर आ रहा है।
मतलब क्या हो गया था इधर पर? इधर पर क्या हो गया था?
कुछ बोल रहा था क्या कोई?
नहीं बोला कुछ नहीं, क्या हो गया था?
अरे उधर पे कनेक्ट नहीं हो रहा था रे, वो कैप्चर कार्ड ही नहीं ले रहा था वो लैपटॉप। फिर उसका बड़ा वाला आपका एक तो बड़ा वाला सिस्टम लेके गया साला, उसका वो फॉर्मेट अलग दे रहा था।
आप वाला सिस्टम मैंने किया तो था,
मेरा वाला सिस्टम लोड नहीं ले रहा है, पता नहीं क्यों। एक्सप्लिट पे चलाया ना इसका? नहीं यार, एडोब इनपुट
एडोब पे चलाया था।
तो क्यों लोड नहीं ले रहा है? तो चलना चाहिए यार।
एडोब में चलाया था और कनेक्ट करा भी था मैंने, और अपने डेमो वाले में स्टीम भी करा था, आराम से चला था पूरा, वो तो बढ़िया।
कल साले में नहीं आने वाला।
कल
मैं नहीं आने वाला।
क्यों?
कल मैं सोऊंगा।
का है ऐसा नहीं होगा कुछ,
ऐसे ही होगा,
ऐसा नहीं है।
बस मैं आज बहुत दौड़ लिया, अब नहीं आने वाला।
कल कहाँ होगा?
मेरे को तो ऐसा लगा कल आगे तो रवि तो नंगा ही कर देगा, जब मुझे चड्डी निकालो कितना खराब
कहाँ रुक रहे अभी?
दिमाग खराब हो गया। एक जगह पे कुछ अवेलेबिलिटी नहीं, सब टेबल हम लगाए हैं, वो काम भी हम नहीं करें।
उस आदमी ने बहुत मदद करी। फुल थोड़ा यहाँ लगा दो, सब ये फ्री है।
फुर्सत वाला कैमरा मैंने सही इतना आराम से कर रहा है। सर
अरे वो अपनी जगह वो बिल्कुल ओके कर रहा है, लेकिन लोग इतने हरामी हैं साले। अभी क्या हुआ, बैटरी वो चेंज करने जैसे गया, एक आदमी निकला, भैंचो ठोकर मार दी उसने बट्टे से कैमरे में। अब मुंडी आदमी की ऐसे आ रही है।
ऑडियो आ रहा है।
Take it, it's a shot in the dark, but I'll make it. No, it's not gonna hurt you, can't shame me. When I am with you, there's no place I'd rather be. 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 When I am with you, there's no place I'd rather be. me a chance, I will take it. It's a shot in the dark, but I'll make it. No, with the light of your heart, you can't shake me. When I am with you, there's no place I'd rather be. 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 When I am with you, there's no place I'd rather be.
Shall we start or? Where is Mr. Prasad? Where is Mr. Prasad?
He said that you start doing this thing.
But are there more people? I thought there were more registrants for finance. You don't need to wait? Okay. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Kind attention, please. I don't want to. Welcome to this session on a rather very interesting topic. Everybody needs money, and we have a blockbuster keynote speaker as well as panelists to give you a very exciting session. If I can request everybody to settle down as quickly as possible, please. Okay, so I'm not going to waste any more time. We are running late from the previous schedule, so let me get the our eminent speakers on the panel directly. Mr. Mathur, would you like to come or yeah? So I'm going to invite some our speakers. Mr. Mathur, CMD. Exim Bank, Mr. MC Dinesh from FKCCI, Shrikant Sundarraj from Helion, Mr. Ramesh Kannan from Keynes Technology, Mr. Sharat Sharma from State Bank of Mysore, Prashant Prakash from Axel, Mr. Satish from Syndicate Bank, and from KSFC, Satish is only. Yeah, Srinivas. Great. So before we jump into the session itself, again the panel is here to give their extremely invaluable insight. Please bear in mind it's not going to be advice that you need to follow. As the old story goes, Socrates was a great Greek philosopher. He kept giving a lot of advice till one day they poisoned him. So they're going to give a lot of extremely helpful and their insights on this topic. As the joke goes, you may not be born well, but you have to marry well. Yeah. Right. Okay. Okay. Sorry, Mr. Parthasati from FKCCI. Can I also request you to come on the panel, please? Yeah, I've done that. So financing is an extremely important piece. Everybody needs money, but money has to find its way to the right product, right innovation, etc. So while the MSME sector itself is a large contributor to the economy, there's much more need for well-groomed financing structure for this kind of sector. Without taking much time, I would like to invite Mr. Yaduvendra Mathur, CMD Exim Bank, to give his short and crisp keynote address.
Thank you very much. It's my privilege to be here. Time is of the essence because I think we're running terribly behind schedule. So though there is a PowerPoint presentation, but I'm going to just run through. So the Exim Bank is, unlike the other bankers who are here, we are not a retail bank. So Exim Bank is
Exim Bank is not really...
No, because when I was speaking, it was also bouncing back. This is okay? So the Export-Import Bank is a act of the Parliament, and we are typically mandated to take Indian companies global. So what we are going to talk about is how this institution can take Karnataka-based companies which are already global in the services sector. We know the IT products have gone all over the world. But as the Honorable Minister in the morning said, how can we now take manufacturing out of, take manufacturing global? So this, we have a range of products, export credits, export capability creation, and export advisory services. Of course, in 1982, it was into trade finance and short-term credit, but now the Exim Bank is typically lending for 8 years, 10 years. So long-term term lending for export creation, export capability creation is the DNA of our bank. And of course, we have got a strong board. There are 3 secretaries to Government of India and Chief Economic Advisor and chairmen of State Bank of India, IDBI Bank, Punjab National Bank and Central Bank. And so it's a strong board, and we have 8 overseas offices and 10 offices in India. As I mentioned, we are into export credit, import credits, and loans for exporting units. So the whole slew of products we have, and these are in various currencies. So 80% of the loans that we give from Exim Bank are dollar-denominated loan. So I will come to the specifics, but the thing to note is, while we are a part of the global value chain, it makes sense in the interconnected world to see whether, apart from manufacturing in India, in Karnataka, you can also manufacture the final product maybe in Ethiopia and then export from Ethiopia. You can manufacture the yarn in India, take it to Vietnam and do the spinning, and then do the weaving and export. Because the rules of the global trade are changing, and we have to, as a fast developing economy, we know that we can manufacture and capture global markets. China over the last 30 years had a export-led growth. That kind of growth India actually has never even tried out. And the time is probably ripe when we set up our competitive manufacturing in India and capture global markets. Of course, our loan assets, we are about 1 lakh crore balance sheet, and we do guarantee operations and funded as well as non-funded. And the lines of credit is one very important program where you must have read that the Prime Minister visits some country and then they announce $1 billion or $2 billion to Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Mongolia. So the Government of India gives loans to other countries through Exim Bank. And the purpose of these loans to those countries is to import from India. So these loans to the countries are really to create export orders for Indian companies. So you must keep looking at the websites, and as soon as these lines are announced in a particular country, if your business is to export to that country, you're really advised to get in touch with us, and we can also. But these are not typically merchandise loans. These are not loans to sell to a trader in that country. These are loans we give to that government, and that government then places orders on Indian companies through a transparent bidding route. So those countries will float tenders, and we encourage those countries to make this tendering process transparent. So there have been some criticisms in the past that very few Indian companies were getting most of these orders, but now that has changed, and we have Ambassador Parthasarthi here. He may throw light on that. But a large part of this lending is to Africa and to Asia. So as I mentioned, the project exports is where firms in Karnataka should strengthen themselves and go into project exports. So instead of only exporting the wire the electric conductor or the transformer, why not export the whole distribution line? The poles, the conductors, the capacitors, the transformers. So the more compound your products are, the better valuation you will get. And this is another scheme in which you can get export cover, insurance cover, and you can directly contract out. So while I am aware that this is an SME, many of you must be very small companies, but the aspirational curve should be to become large. And don't be satisfied to remain as an SME. Try to grow in scale and size and capture global markets. And of course, the overseas investment finance is also one very popular scheme of Exim Bank, where we have supported more than 400 companies to acquire businesses overseas. So over the day, I was speaking to many successful SMEs in Karnataka, and I was encouraging them, why don't you go out and acquire a company in Europe or in US, because the Exim Bank can give you a loan in India which you can inject as equity to do an overseas acquisition. So under the Reserve Bank of India's guidelines, first level subsidiaries can be funded by Indian entities, Exim Bank in particular, and you can get the dollar loans for pretty cheap, 4%. You can take a loan from Exim Bank. Of course, your company in India should be able to offer us a collateral for that overseas acquisition. So this is a very structured scheme of Exim Bank, but this is the way to leapfrog and acquire technology, because that is one of the big challenges for our SMEs to go global and competitive. The programs these are the programs: pre-shipment, post-shipment, credit. I'm sure my other colleague bankers from Bank of Mysore and other banks, they do all these products. But you can access loans for R&D. You can access loans for innovations, for enhancing your infrastructure through such schemes of Exim Bank. I will stop at this point because I know time is of an essence, and I thank you once again for calling me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mathur. I'd like to now invite Mr. MC Dinesh, Senior VP from FKCCI, to just say a few words, and then we straight away get into our panel discussion. Mr. Dinesh.
Thanks, Shriram. Good evening, everybody. Mr. Yajuvendra Mathur, CMD Exim Bank, Srikant Sundarajan, Venture Partner, Elion Advisors, Ramesh Khannan, MD, Keynes Technologies, Saraj Sharma, Managing Director, State Bank of Mysore, Ramesh Khannan, MD of the Keynes Technologies, Srikant Sundarajan, Venture Partner, Elion Advisors, my good friend Prashant Prakash, Partner, ASL Partner, Satish Kamath, General Manager, Credit Syndicate Bank, Srinivas Muthi, Executive Director, KSFC, our own Partha Sarthi, Secretary General, FKCCI, friends from the print and electronic media, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored to be here amongst the experts at this session on financing business and projects. Finance or money for business and projects is like blood in a human body. It is the most essential element for the success of any business or a project. As you're all aware, blood needs to keep circulating in a human body for it to be useful. If it stops, it just coagulates and becomes unusable. Likewise, money needs to keep circulating for it is to be useful. Financing business and project, it itself is a very complex business. Financing MSMEs are different than infrastructure financing. Microfinancing could help a completely different category of business people. The recently established Mudra Bank caters to small businesses who cannot afford to provide any collateral. MSME largely looks towards bank for their funding needs, be it for construction of a factory or an enterprise, working or the capital needs or for an overdraft or to buy even a machinery. Government of Karnataka has also introduced various incentives including subsidies, concessional interest rates, which promote MSME and also encourage women entrepreneurs in the state. A few years back, availability of funds to meet the demand was an important issue. However, today, availability of money is not a major issue. Indians have a high level of saving, which enables large part of it to be deposited in the bank. As I mentioned earlier, such large funding sitting in banks without circulation does not help them. It has to lend it out for entrepreneurs. But the problem, as I understand, is more about the awareness about the availability of funds, especially for the MSMEs who really need them. In addition, the processes, the requirement of paperwork, and more important, the mindset pose impediments to effectively utilization of these funds, both by the banks as well as the entrepreneurs. Banks at times follow extremely rigid procedures in declaring a loan as an NPA, adding further problems to the MSME, which has borrowed the money and has been facing difficulty in servicing such loans. I would strongly urge the banks to streamline the processes, requirements of paperwork, etc. should be minimum so that MSMEs can directly approach and obtain loans through banks. For example, I was told that for a small loan of a few thousand rupees, Mudra Bank would require a huge list of things like loan application, photograph, Aadhaar card, PAN card, SSI registration, residence proof, factory address, raw materials, etc. Not only forgetting to mention VAT, TIN, extract of registration, sales tax returns, income tax return, balance sheet, so many things. Please tell me, a small manufacturer who has with great difficulty set up a small unit in the name of fabrication would have to run around collecting all these requirements, or will he run his own business? What I am pointing out is not that the procedures are essential to ensure security of the loan and fairly non-discriminatory process in approving loans. However, that the procedure itself should not become an impediment, thus defeating the very objective of extending loan to the MSMEs. When it comes to financing projects related to infrastructure, it's a completely different ballgame. Building infrastructure is a highly capital intensive process with large initial investments with long gestation periods. Most infrastructure projects would involve non-recourse or limited resource financing. Lenders can only be repaid from the revenues generated from the project. Market and commercial risks and variation in the demand for past become significant before lending decision is taken. Most importantly, many such projects are of public interest nature, and execution of such projects depend on regulators and government agencies. It would even involve a tariff increase in reversals, delays in environment clearances, delays in payments, and various other externalities. Only a decade ago, infrastructure investment in India was financed largely by the government budgetary allocations in the public sector companies. In the last few years, private sectors have emerged as a significant player under the PPP model, mainly due to the commercial bank funding. But this has also led to an increasing concentration of risk to the banks in terms of their sector exposure and asset liability maturity mismatch. Karnataka has been one of the best PPP models, because of which major infrastructure projects in Karnataka have avoided financial problems. Understanding the need for large-scale investments required for infrastructure development in India, the Government of India has set up the India Infrastructure Finance Company Limited, a wholly owned Government of India company in 2006, to provide long-term finance to viable infrastructure projects through the scheme for financing viable infrastructure projects through a special purpose vehicle. On a standalone basis, the IIFCL has made cumulative gross sanctions of over 63,800 crores under direct lending to more than 360 projects, and has made a cumulative disbursement of over 45,000 crores, including disbursement under the refinance and the takeout finance till the September 30th of 2015. Despite such successes, India needs trillions of dollars of investment to develop our infrastructure needs in the next decade. The government understands the need to tap the pension funds, the insurance funds, and the sovereign wealth funds to mobilize resources for the infrastructure development of India. Refinancing the various other securitization processes are becoming increasingly sophisticated and at the same time complex. India is setting up a rupee 40,000 crore National Investment Infrastructure Fund called the NIIF that would attract funding from the global pension funds and the sovereign wealth funds. We have the CMD of the Exim Bank, the MD of the SBM, the General Manager of the Syndicate Bank, General Manager of the ED of the KSFC, the venture fund experts from the Elon and the Accel partners, apart from the MD of Keynes Technology. Each one of them is an expert and will share his knowledge on the different specified areas. Financing, you will agree, is a very vast subject. Within the time available for this session, let us all make the best use of their expertise. I wish the speaker all the very best. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Dinesh. So we'll straight away get into the panel. We've got a distinguished lineup of speakers with a mix from industry, banks, and the private equity and venture capital community. While how much ever we would like to have more of the time of these distinguished gentlemen, but I'm sorry, we'll have to cut your comments to about 5 minutes. So please bear with me, and we'll obviously have you answer some questions as they come. But my first question goes to Mr. Ramesh Kannan, who is the MD from Keynes Technology. So you started sometime way back in the late 80s. And what were the options available for funding for you at that point in time? And there's a follow-up question to that. If you were to be an entrepreneur or to start a business today, how different would life be for you?
Thank you for asking this question. My point here is, I was thinking it was very easy, but then things did not go well. But those days, there were options of getting seed capital. There were options from state financial institutions like KSFC. Seed capital was available, soft loan was available. Today, we have surpassed all these things. So today we have to go for angel funding. We have to encourage more of angel funding. Ideas has to come to reality means we need to do that. For me, at every stage, fund was a problem. It was always a crisis. It was a never-ending problem to me. Every other day I used to think next year was a better day. But then bankers, different products, different options. When you read it, it is so easy, but then in reality it is not. We have to comply with certain norms, regulations. On the other hand, new products came in, factors came in. We were trying to do, everywhere there is only hitches. I think as a policy, when we do it, we have to look at the implementation angle and have a continuous improvement on the policies. With due regards to my banker friends here, I think we have to continuously improve on it. Otherwise, what will happen is many of these products are lying in paper only and not getting implemented in the right sectors. Today, there are enough options. If I have to start, if an idea is there, we have to learn how to present it. There are people available, funding available, but everybody wants to see something happening. So that startup, we have to go through an angel fund only. And I think whether it is government fund or equity, private angel fund available, we should tap it, we should go through that. Thank you.
So Mr. Kannan, if I hear you right, you are saying that you had a great positive start with help from KSFC, etc. And if you were to start something today, then we have, the likes of Helion, Accel to help entrepreneurs, but with good product, good processes, some creativity and innovation.
Yes.
Now, the second follow-up question to you is, do you think our regulatory environment or our legal framework is conducive enough? So you alluded to some options that need to be brought into the focus. But do you think the regulatory landscape is strong enough? Approvals come faster. Banks are more amenable to give you easy loans or whatever.
As far as the regulatory and the legal norms are concerned, in my opinion, we are still in the age-old ratios and age-old ideas. In my opinion, we have to come out of this, get into, understand what type of a funding is required for each company. And bankers should advise companies. I'm sure chartered accountants will do that, but bankers should advise the companies to take the appropriate products. If we do that, then this problem will not be there. Again, the legal and compliances, we have to look at the buyer-seller relationship. We have to make sure payments go from the big buyer to the seller in time. Today, we don't have regulations for that. Without this in place, none of these products of bill discounting, factoring, all this will not work. Government should bring in some rating, some assessment to the big buyers to give payments in time. For us, our exports, we have no problems. When it comes to domestic businesses, we have tough times to realize monies. Grace periods are there. Luckily, bankers understand. But for the scale which we are looking at, it is difficult for us. And without scale today, survival itself is not possible.
Right.
So, in my opinion, first we have to bring in a regulation in whoever puts a purchase order will have to stick on to the payment terms, and otherwise there should be punishment.
Okay. So you're suggesting good, strong processes, but at the same time a clear line of distinguishment on default, etc.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Mr. Kannan.
Thank you,
I'll move straight to Shrikant, and I'm sorry, Shrikant, I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot immediately. But we've seen a lot of technology, a lot of e-commerce, a lot of tech-based new age companies getting a lot of funding. MSMEs, which are generally an important tool for our sector. Do you think a lot of private equity, VC funding will come into MSMEs, and what is your take on that?
Thanks, Sriram. It is an interesting question, but I think let's take a step back. First of all, just because it's technology and it's receiving attention is not correct. There's a bunch of offline businesses as well as technology-enabled services that have got interest, right? And the key thing is you should have something which is kind of disrupts what is already there. In terms of scale, reaching out to people, it's very critical. Good team and a good problem to solve. Now, if that exists in the MSME play, I'm pretty sure it will attract the right kind of capital. Now, one of the challenges with MSMEs or manufacturing segment itself is it does not lend itself to a great impedance match when it comes to VC funding cycles. Typically, those are 5 to 7 years, and this may take longer.
Right.
So it's very important to find the right partner. There are funds which focus on manufacturing as a segment. Find them early. Make sure, as my colleague on the panel, Mr. Kannan, was mentioning, that you have a minimal viable product which is actually starting to show some traction. And in order to do that, you have to you have various avenues. There are some angel funds which are available. There are some impact funds which actually fund these kind of products too. I mean, quite a few of them are there, like Mentera or like Infuse, which actually focus on agri-tech or green tech or clean tech or manufacturing, etc.
Right.
So there are avenues available, but make sure that you get it to a point where like it's evident to the investor that there is good potential to scale.
Right.
Now, if you've been around for 15 years, 17 years, you're chugging along, then you should go for what I call conventional funding, which is where India actually suffers. It suffers because the banks talk something, but when they actually are on the ground helping the MSME out, lots of things like, for example, why can't they come up with innovative funding against each AR, accounts receivable? Because it's very important for the MSME to survive. If they don't have cash flow, they're not going to be able to grow.
Right.
But it's not done that way today, right? the onus of repaying loans and interest rates are huge. So why not put a threshold, a better threshold, give some better tax incentive saying 3 to 5 years they don't have to pay anything because they've achieved this kind of momentum. We want to encourage that.
Right.
Third thing would be, I mean, now with Make with India, etc., is there a technology partnership that can be, because I noticed Mr. Mathur was talking about India lending money to governments. Why not get some interesting technology from outside, maybe from Israel, maybe from the US, maybe Germany, and see if that can actually kind of improve the time to accelerate with no onus, no financial onus on the MSME.
Right.
That's also very critical, right? And these are things which can be done if the government takes a very proactive stance, saying by each segment, by each size, how do we kind of custom tailor it to encourage it?
Right.
So I'm not talking about early stage guys or things which are less than 5 years old, but there might be very cool companies which are 15 years old, which are struggling because they've been neglected.
Right.
So those are things which will onus on the MSME.
So if I hear you
That's
right,
also very critical,
I mean,
right?
the advice
And
or a
these
tip
are things
for
which
the guys here would be build a strong product, focus on the product or the service, have a great team around you, let it scale to let it have some scale and bring it to a level where they think they can leapfrog with the funding. Right.
I think the main thing here is it has to be somewhat disruptive.
Right.
In
Disruptive,
the sense,
yep.
if it is not, then it is more of the same and there might be many people.
Right.
So I think I gave you two theses, right? One is an early stage thing, which is what that thinking would be. But what about MSMEs which are established already?
Right.
For them, they need a differentiated kind of financial support, which may or may not come from a traditional VC.
Right. So I'm going to tweak my second question to you in a slightly different form, because Mr. Kannan addressed the first part. You spent some time in the US, and you're also, a frequent traveler or have connections with the US. Can we draw an example of what the US does slightly better on these areas than what India is doing, or can we take a cue from that?
Certainly, I think incorporating a startup, getting inputs from mentors, getting access to seed funds is a much, much faster process there, much more transparent, and there's hardly any regulations, right? Also, they give you, if you're categorized as a small business, you get like phenomenal tax credits for a long time, including the ability to reinvest your profits back without actually paying anything, right? That's one. The second thing is, see, if you look at like US traditionally, let's go back 100 years, right? A lot of the advancements came in very, very core technology areas. I'm not just talking about telecom, not talking about wireless, etc. Agriculture. A lot of the combines and automated forms of harvesting and seed research, etc., was actually carried out there, and it was actually funded fairly well, both by the government as well as the private sector.
Right.
So if you look at the same situation here, we probably need that.
Right.
And unfortunately, that whole confluence, the perfect storm of good academics, good mentorship, good seed funding, etc., is somewhat sporadic.
Right.
And if we can get that in the context of certain segments, which are very, very critical, like manufacturing, agri-tech, even fintech, for example, like why should you take 5 KYCs? Why can't you look at my operating history and come up with a mechanism to actually credit score the organization? All this information is available. You ask for it 10 times, but don't use it.
Right. Understand. So yeah, that's a useful thing. So while we've started with this startup policy that Prime Minister Modi announced on 16th of Jan, and obviously the devil is in the detail, but from what I'm taking a cue of your thoughts, I think a good, better regulation which eases out a lot of this is probably what the US has done way better, has built a community around it.
So that's an oxymoron.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't have a regulation and it be easy.
Yeah, I mean, actually, yeah. But well, easy, not too prohibitive regulation, if I may say so. Great, thanks, Shrikant. Appreciate your input. I'll move to Mr. Sharma, Sharad Sharma from State Bank of Mysore. Now, this is another twist, ladies and gentlemen. The RBI has mandated that public sector banks have cleaned up their balance sheets by very quickly, right? Now with this pressure on banks to clean up balance sheets, or for the lack of a better word, I'm using pressure, but there is this sufficient focus to clean up balance sheets for you guys. Now, does this somewhere impact your ability or your capability to give banking credit to MSMEs or to the manufacturing sector, especially at the people who are just starting up?
Yeah, from the startup world, we've come to the brick and mortar, as they say, which is the topic of the discussion Mr. Dinesh was talking of. I think this, yes, because it is in the recent past. There's only in the last 1 month that it's coming in the papers. So there's nothing earth-shaking about it as far as the cleaning up balance sheet issue is there. The only, balance sheets had to be cleaned. Basel III deadlines were there to 2018. What has happened is that has been advanced by 1 year. But that is, as far as the impact on MSME is concerned, I don't think there will be any problems. Because macro, what I'll tell you is, if you're talking of 70% of banking is in the public sector space. And of that, there are 28 public sector banks. And my hunch is that except for 6 or 7 banks, there will be no issue of capital adequacy as far as the other public sector banks are concerned. Say, as far as my bank is concerned, we've just declared our quarterly results in December. And against the minimum norm of 10.5%, my capital adequacy is 12.4%. So that's not an issue. But when you come to the aspect of MSME funding, there is a separate prescription we have, and which says that 40% of our net bank credit has to go to priority sector. Right. And in that priority sector, you have various subsets. You have agriculture, which has 18%, and 22% comprises MSME, as well as the lower loans in the housing sector. And of course, there is a very strong focus since this government has come in on the manufacturing side. So to give you an idea, my MSME growth on a YOY basis for my bank was 18%. In fact, the government of India, the Prime Minister had launched the Mudra scheme in the first week of April. So from April to December, our growth has been to the extent of above 20-22%. And what they have done is actually they have categorized it into 3 forms. One is the smaller one, which is about 50,000, which doesn't. Normally that's a complaint against public sector banks, and others that's a lot of paperwork or things are required. So up to 10 lakhs, which is the Mudra category, there's not much of paperwork which is required. And yes, as far as the RBI thing is concerned, up to 1 crore you normally have the CGTMSE scheme, so there is no collateral requirement also, which again there is an issue. So, coming back specifically to your question, I think none of the public sector banks would be constrained in any manner by whatever provisioning requirement acceleration will happen by 1 year. And in respect of few banks which have not so adequate capital, the government is very convinced. I think in the forthcoming budget, capital allocation will happen. So I think MSME is where, and it has to grow. The nation, if the nation proceeds, if employment has to be given, if skills have scalability also, so everywhere MSME comes in. Right. So the focus cannot get away from MSME.
So from what I'm hearing, with the focus on Make in India, Skill India, Digital India, and whatever Startup India, things are all not that bad. You're saying that RBI may put its own guidelines, but there are still, you're not, the MSME sector itself is not constrained for getting funding. If I hear you correct.
None of them need to worry anything on that.
Great, fantastic.
The only thing is, yes, sometimes there is a thing as far as procedures or things are concerned.
Mr. Sharma, don't give a caveat. I think, that's fine. But I understand. But if we get the right paperwork and the right, whatever, if we can ease that down a little bit, there's no reason for somebody to worry today.
Funding days, there's absolutely no issue.
Fantastic. Now the second part, which is a slightly, controversial issue maybe, but, I'm sure you're well capable to address that. We've seen so many of the NPAs being created, large NPAs or, large defaulters. And somewhere, if there is a large loan defaulter, it sometimes creates an impression or an impact on the smaller borrower, because once there is pressure on the bank, you scrutinize much more before you lend. So with a new bankruptcy code kind of a thing coming in, do you think everybody will be now regarded on the same footing? So whether, as Mr. Kannan mentioned, if there's a big or a small defaulter, we will have the same process or the rigor, or will one party get affected more than the other?
I'll be very frank to say that as far as the legal process is concerned, it doesn't distinguish between a small MSME borrower or a large borrower.
Yeah,
Everybody is taking advantage of the situation to a certain extent.
No, so the law is, if I'm, let me articulate, the law is same for everybody, there's no dispute, it's just the question of the impression.
No, you have the DRT. Actually, if you look at the DRTs, that's why I said the legal system as of now is common for both. You are talking of the bankruptcy law, bankruptcy code which is there in front of Parliament. They have to clear it. And of course, I think the banks will be the happiest if that gets cleared. Why I'm telling you is, the existing system is the DRT. And to give you an idea, in 2014, the DRTs all over the country, they have about 65 to 70 DRTs. They disposed of 30,000 crores worth of litigation. But the pending litigation as on December was 3.75 lakh crores. So even 8% of those had not been disposed of. And it is both small cases and larger cases. But the bankruptcy law will definitely, as far as larger things are concerned, the banks will land to share, because at this point of time, if we go into a litigant route, the winding up takes about 4 years' time, and after that the recovery process. So those are all issues.
Right.
You don't have a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 11 here in India, which makes it a little faster. But once it comes into practice, I would say the banking sector and its customers will stand to gain, because at this point of time, we have a base rate system.
Right.
And above the base rate system, we charge a risk premium. That's the NPA is built into that. So if the stress assets of the banking sector is, say, about 13 to 15%, if that gets reduced, it will also get reflected in pricing, more efficient and better pricing for the MSME customers.
Wow, fantastic. Thanks, Mr. Sharma. I think that was very insightful. I now move on to Prashant from Axel. Again, Prashant, you have a lot of experience in funding not only technology-led companies but non-technology-based companies as well. I think while funding is obviously extremely important, what also becomes important is some sector or domain expertise, so that you can groom, so it's not only about money, but it's also about intellect, it's also about experience or whatever. So do you think in general, you can be specific about Axel also or yourself, but do you think generally PE businesses bring in that intellect capital along with them, domain expertise along with them? Is that already happening? Do you think that needs to improve? Or is it just about money and return and profitability?
So, I guess in general, PE money is considered smarter money, right?
Right.
But there are various shades of that smartness, I guess. So it really depends on the fund. And some funds have a significant focus on what I would call company building, right? Some funds have a little bit more focus on saying, we'll find the right team, we'll give them money, and we'll be on the board, we'll kind of guide them to the extent, but we're not going to get our hands dirty or roll up our sleeves, so to speak. So I think Axel, for example, we have operationalized the smartness through what we call as a venture development team. So the venture development team specifically operationalizes a lot of the advice that partners or board meetings, which come out of board meetings, because in an environment like India, entrepreneurship has been there in many areas, but as Shrikant was saying, if you look at innovation or disruptive entrepreneurship, it's very recent. It's really it's a phenomena of the last 5 years, 6 years. So unlike the Valley, you don't have a lot of mentorship on tap. You just can't go out on there and say, okay, where can I get my mentor who's been through not one but 2, 3 ventures and really tap into it. So a lot of onus is on the funds to really substitute what otherwise in an ecosystem, a more mature ecosystem, is available very easily.
Right.
So yeah, I think really entrepreneurs should look at funds who can provide that degree of smartness.
Right. Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, that's a message. It's not only hard cash that we're talking about, it's also about the brains that we're talking about. So well, Axel and the other P community is the place probably to do.
For example, Shrikant and Helion provides that role. So all funds are trying to build in that component.
Absolutely. So the next again, I mean, it's just taking a cue from what I asked Shrikant earlier. But do you generally see VCs taking a more wider role in the development of this sector, because you have the experience of with the likes of Forest Health or whatever, I mean medicine equipment, heart, something to do with healthcare or whatever. I mean these are, while technology is embedded, but these are some things which are more, crucial to human life and humanity in general. So do you think there will be a lot of PVC role in this sectors going forward?
Just taking off from where Shrikant was talking, I think India has this unique advantage of being where you can do frugal innovation. But that frugal innovation should not necessarily mean low tech or low cost, right? Sometimes that's where it, you're taking technology from another country, kind of stripping it down and trying to do something cheap. I think so really the opportunity now is to do the reverse, right? Take an idea, use our frugal innovation capability here, and like Shrikant said, sometimes you might have to borrow. You might have to borrow from another country. You might have to, there is a lot of talent who's willing to come and innovate in India. So industries here need to tap into that talent which is available in other countries who are willing to come and work for them. So industry, while that's being done in specific areas like healthcare, this is what I would call as cross-border innovation collaboration, right?
Understand.
I think that's exactly the place where industry, maybe in other areas, needs to now take a leaf out of and say, hey, you know what, how do I actually implement frugal innovation, build a platform, innovative platform within my organization where I can test it in India, but that platform is applicable globally. So that's what really Make in India. See, Make in India for India is great, but how can I make in India through a different lens where I am not kind of doing cheap stuff, but doing stuff that has relevance globally. So it's a mindset change. Again, like I said, a lot of this is new in India. So the government, while it's good in focusing on things like Make in India, like Shrikant said, there has to be this confluence that needs to be brought in, and it can be done in specific areas. Maybe the government can say for the next 3 years, it's only about healthcare. Maybe pick 2, 3, it's aviation, maybe 3 areas, and all the focus is going to be there. We'll be number one in these areas, right? So that sharpening that messaging, which is at a very high level, to actionable stuff that brings in real, innovation is where I see a gap today.
Right. So what you're saying is, while we can all talk about Make in India, I think the real purpose of that is Make in India but use globally. There has to be more cross-pollination from global world But yeah, that opens up another set of issues. So me wearing my hat as a tax partner can tell you that people coming into India, may create some issues for that company. Visa regulations, we have always seen a challenge. So again, less regulation, less prohibition, more enhancement, more efficiency is the order of the day. I think great comments, Prashant. Thanks so much. We'll move to Syndicate, Mr. Kamath from the Syndicate Bank. So again, I mean, traditional banks like yourselves, okay, there are these payment banks or small banks, etc., which have been now, mushrooming. Will this impact you as a large-sized bank to fund MSMEs? And what do you see as the impact of small banks, payment banks, etc., and what is your view on that one?
In the organized financial sector, we have players like State Bank Group, nationalized banks or public sector banks. Then there are a lot of private sector banks. Besides that, urban cooperative banks, and at state levels, institutions like KSFC or state level financial corporations. A whole lot of institutions are there, which funds in one or the other way all these business activities, and including the MSME sector.
Okay.
Even when these private sector banks were set up in the early 90s, a question was raised on the public sector banks, whether the public sector banks will be able to hold on their forte as to the largest lenders to the masses. And same thing now when these small payments banks are emerging, the same question is being asked in different forums. But what I feel is, with whatever envisaged growth in the country and whole lot of new entrepreneurs bringing up small scale industrial units, MSMEs, etc., there is enough room for all these players to have their own share of the funding.
Right.
So even the emergence of this small payments bank will not threaten the existence or the larger share of the public sector banks.
Okay.
The thing what we as public sector bank, large scale banks need to look into is how fast and how effectively we can deliver the credit to these MSME sector and enable them to progress in their way.
Right.
So that attitudinal change has already set in all the public sector banks. And with the changing manpower combination also in public sector banks, because almost the old generation bankers are on the verge of retirement or already have retired, and a whole lot of new recruitment is taking place, and the younger generation is there inside the public sector banks.
Right. Okay.
So that being the case, no much differentiations will be there between the public sector banks and whatever these small payments banks. And we are also catching up with the technology,
right,
which is the driver of growth.
Right.
So with the whatever latest changes in the technology and the products being delivered on the platforms, I don't think this will have any much impact for the banks like our size.
Right. So yeah, so that's very encouraging, Mr. Kamath. I think what you're saying is, one, a mindset change has creeped into organizations such as yours. Technology is getting embedded in everything. So you will cut down bureaucracy or red tapeism very quickly and improve processes which will help MSMEs get faster loans, which is very encouraging. The second question that I had for you was that, usually when there is a rate cut announced by the RBI, that kind of increases funding to some, at least your ability to fund very quickly. Now, while some criticism has come in the past that there is going to be some, hold off that, the rate cut immediately doesn't result in funding. Do you think there will be some increased funding in the coming months?
Rate cut, whether it will increase the funding.
Yeah.
You see,
in action actually, not in plans, in action.
As far as rate cut or interest rate prevailing in the economy is concerned, there are a couple of things which will drive them. The savings accretion from the mass section and their expectations of earnings from the savings.
Right.
That also need to be borne in mind. Then the inflation rate in the economy.
Okay.
When inflation is curbed, when inflation is curtailed, definitely the purchasing power increases. So that brings down the rate. But on the one hand, if the inflation remains at the same pace and there is a demand for rate cut, the regulator may not be able to pass on that.
Right. No. I don't mean to be an Arnab Goswami here or whatever, but all I'm asking you is a simple yes/no answer. We understand the economics, but will you see if there's a rate cut, yes or no? Will that increase funding for you?
No, rate cut definitely will help the entrepreneurs to bring more and more enterprises, which will again require the funding. So it will, in a way, it will boost the demand for the
Great,
credit.
fantastic. So that's good news. So my last question, Mr. Murthy from KSFC. Mr. Kannan was the first beneficiary, or not first. I mean, he benefited initially from KSFC funding. You actually also funded Infosys at some point in time, way back. So can we expect the KSFC to play a big role in creating the next large player from an MSME?
Definitely. We play a major role. In fact, we have already taken a lot of initiative in this direction.
Right.
We have introduced new schemes. In fact, what Mr. Kannan said, that is true.
Right.
At that time, our mandate itself is to create first generation entrepreneurs.
Okay.
As Mr. Narayan Murthy said, no bankers has come forward to finance him at the state level financial corporation and KSAJC. We funded him.
Right.
Similarly, even now we are continuing the same, and we will increase further in that direction.
Great, fantastic. So that's very encouraging from KSFC. And I know you played a very crucial role being a premier state finance corporation. So congratulations, and hopefully you will come with more schemes and more innovative models. Great. I know we are running out of time, so I'm just going to invite Mr. Parthasarathi for the last closing remark. But this has been a really insightful session from the industry, from our bankers, from our private equity and venture capitalists, from KSFC. You may catch them off guard, offline to ask questions. But Mr. Parthasarathi, you can sit there and conclude.
Thank you so much. This was a very, very useful session because we had a mix of experts. We had the Exim Bank, we had Sharmaji from the State Bank of Mysore, we had Syndicate Bank, we had technology, we had venture capital, we had KSFC. I think this is something which provided you a comprehensive view. If I try to sum it up a little, although it was an extremely difficult thing because sitting here, we can't hear anything. It's a lot of echoing. But despite that, let me try to do. Mr. Mathur of Exim Bank, he started telling you a large kind of loans that they can extend, long-term loan they can extend, and particularly he emphasized on two things. One is project exports. For example, in just for Africa, India provides more than 5 billion US dollars as assistance every 3 years. So a lot of our people who are exporting, let's say transformers, instead of transformers, they can practically go and set up electrification project. Somebody who is good in computers, they can go and practically set up a computer network as well as computer literacy project, which runs into millions of dollars. This funding is available from India, facilities are available through Exim Bank. These are the things which can be made use of by people sitting here. And also even MSMEs which are useful in exporting, they can take export as one of their main business. They can also take advantage of Exim Bank loans and insurance guarantee. Because a country like Mauritania, you go and export and afterwards there is a coup. That's the Exim Bank guarantees and gives back your money. So these are the facilities that are available from there. That's what was taken. And then after that, Mr. Dinesh, Senior Vice President, explained to you that money is like blood in the body. Money is essential for any business to run. And every different thing, whether it is the micro sector or the MSME sector or the other business financing, export financing or project financing, each one is different. Each one requires a different kind of product, which requires a different kind of decision-making process and things like that. How he differentiated as to how particularly infrastructure project financing is going to be completely different. That's what he said. And if I remember correctly, Mr. Ramesh Kannan of Keynes Technologies, he appreciated KSFC saying how it was easy and they were friendly in providing the loan, and now how it has become difficult. It has to go through the process and get the angel funding and then the series funding and all that. But he said that you have rules, make simpler rules so that people can go and access and obtain funding, but at the same time make it a point that somebody who is not going to stick to the payment schedule and who is going to default, there has to be a penalty for them. That's what he explained.
Right.
Later.
Thanks so much, Mr. Pathasati. So if I may take the last 60 seconds to conclude this wonderful session, what I've heard from all of you distinguished gentlemen, if there is potential, if there is viability in the business, if there is a great team, and if there is a great business idea, then from what I'm hearing from all of you, there is going to be no dearth of funding. Whether it's angel, KSFC, banks, private equity, whatever. Nothing's going to really cut you down. All we need is a good regulatory framework, easy processes, and better regulation, better payment mechanism to recover, etc. And of course, better knowledge on the availability of various resources. So a forum like this, with all of you being there, it's a wonderful stage for all MSMEs and budding entrepreneurs to get finance. Thanks once again. Really would like to, thank you from the bottom of my heart for this wonderful insight and for taking time. Thank you. Yep. Sorry, there's a small formality. I think I'd request somebody from government to just present a small memento to all the distinguished guests. Request you to just give a round of applause to all our distinguished gentlemen. B line. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, thank you. So me also. Okay, thanks. Here, Shrikant. Photo session. Excuse me? Replica? Presenter?
Only one cordless.
मजा आता है और औरतें तो है हेली कर दिखा ठीक है बंद कर दे रहे